09. Pledge of Allegiance.
There it is.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so let's jump into acceptance of minutes. So we have our December business meeting, and then we had an extra meeting on January 4th.
Yeah.
So do we have any questions or edits?
Make the motion. Do we want to do it as one motion?
Yeah, we can
Actually,
do it
no,
as-
because Karen missed the one, so we have to do two separate. 'Cause she came.
Yes, that's right.
So I'll make the motion to approve the first.
Okay. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye? Okay.
And now the motion to.
Let me just say, Janet Krupp has an excused absence, so she's not here this evening.
Motion to accept the minutes from the 4th.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Well, you have to.
And Karen, you're
abstain.
going to abstain, right?
Oh, right,
'Cause
I'm
you
going
weren't
to
there.
abstain. I'm just,
So we'll
I'm still
do-
getting myself organized.
301.
Rick and... And 301.
Okay. Committee updates. Friends of the Library, have they met?
No, they didn't meet in December.
December?
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
They didn't have a December meeting,
Oh,
so.
they didn't meet.
they're
I
g-
thought you
no,
said
they
they're
did
going
not-
to meet.
No, they did not. I said they did not meet in December.
And I've got them meeting
and
on
they have
the
their meeting coming
25th?
up on, hold on.
25.
Yeah, 25th.
25th. Okay.
Yeah, right before the book sale.
Okay. Development Fund meets, I have it as the 25th, but I thought
Thursday.
it's this Thursday, so it's the 21st.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, that's the development fund.
Okay. So I checked the library calendar, and I was like, wait a minute. I think I'm wrong.
Okay, the 21st.
Okay. Building Development Marketing Committee on hiatus. I'm wondering if I just leave that off the next agenda if they're staying on hiatus for a while. Town Center Committee, did you have any updates?
Town Center Committee will be this Friday,
Okay,
so it's not meeting until
22nd.
22nd.
Okay, Personnel HR Committee, we haven't met on anything separate, and also for the Building and Maintenance Committee. Nothing there, so. New business. First business is wage and classification study. I think I sent you an attachment for that. I hope I remembered to send you the attachment.
Which one was it?
Yeah, it was a long proposal. So I'll let Yvette give you a rundown. So this is something that, is it Goffstown is doing right now?
The town of Goffstown and the Goffstown Public Library are conducting a wage classification study. This is a company that's up in Meredith. They're called MRI, Municipal Resources Inc. And I sent around the proposal, or Jen sent around the proposal that I had sent her. And basically what it will do is we'll classify 15 positions. Obviously we have more than 15 people working in the library, but some people are, we have several aides, we have several, positions that are the same in certain departments. So they'll be able to look at the job descriptions, compare it to the market value, also develop a wage scale for us. The last time that we had a wage classification study done was before 2000. So it's really, this is 16 years, 15 or 16 years, depending on how you want to look at it. And, the positions have changed, the economy has changed. It seemed to me when I heard this in GMILKS that Goffstown was doing this, we are struggling with requesting a raise every budget season and then having that taken out. So Meanwhile, in real life at the library, we have turnover. People are being evaluated very highly, and it would be nice to give them some kind of merit raise or a cost of living raise or something like that. But we really don't have good data to do that. Last year, if you remember, during budget season, we did what we usually do, which was compare with the other urban libraries in the urban cooperative with the state. And, we didn't show that we were, being underpaid or overpaid, but that was still, more like an internal study with other libraries and not something that was performed by an outside company. So I think this is a good thing to do. I think it's very timely. We're able to be kind of looped into the Goffstown study because some of our positions are the same. They both have a director, so they'll already be comparing director position with what the market value is, and can just study my position at the same time. There are other positions that don't line up exactly because each community is unique, so each library is going to have a little bit of a different interpretation of a library aid or a circulation aid or something like that, but others will be the same. So the total cost of this is on the way in the back.
$5,250.
Right.
What page number is that?
It's like 17.
17.
So like third from the back.
There it is.
Now, is Goffstown actually the moving force behind this study? They are the ones that want to do it? Is G-Milks or
No.
any other group involved with it, or is it strictly the town of Goffstown that is doing this and is hiring somebody to
It's
do
the
it?
town of Goffstown.
I see.
But it's the town of Goffstown and the Goffstown Public Library
Okay.
because they're separate in the same way that
Right.
we're separate.
Okay.
No, we were just having a meeting, and you go around the table and say, "What's going on in your library?" and that was their report, and it was like, really? That's
It kind of fits in with our goals for this year too, with trying to update job descriptions and all, really this. But this is from a professional standpoint, an independent standpoint. That's so. Do you want to tell them kind of your idea on how to fund that?
yeah. I don't know what I did with that email. So,
Fund what?
okay. So this study
is a
costs.
proposal for us to do that same study here
Yes.
at our library.
That's
so
that's what's emailed around.
There's probably a little bit of cost savings because
Yes.
Goffstown is already doing this. Then they can take some of that data from what they're doing in Goffstown and match it up with, say, the director's position, because they have a director's position. They're similar library size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So some of
They're a
that
little smaller
kind of,
than us. Their population is like 18 or 15,000, I think.
yeah, so it's not
Smaller.
off by too much. So that's why we're looking at Goffstown's proposal. This is one that Yvette requested that they put together a proposal for our library.
Right. So the total cost is $5,250 to do this study, and we can have the data by April. If we ask the trustees special fund, if I ask you to pay for 1/3 of it from the trustees special fund, that's only $1,750. If I ask the Friends of the Library to pay also 1/3, they only have $1,750, and then the development fund would also I would ask them for $1,750. So, not one entity is going to have to have the burden of $5,250.
So what do you guys think of that idea?
You say the study hasn't been done since 2000?
Yeah. Before 2000, you said, right?
That's
I'm sorry, who was sponsoring it again? Who would be conducting it?
This is Municipal Resources, Inc. in Meredith.
Is that a private company?
Yes. Did you get the proposal?
No, I'm just looking at all of my receipts and I don't have it.
Can you pass this?
I forwarded it.
Oh, it came from you.
Yvette sent it to me, and then, yeah, here's a copy.
It's not here.
Rick, here's a copy.
There's a copy of it.
Thanks, sorry. Okay.
I don't know, I got the impression when you were first introducing it
Mhm.
that this would be an interesting thing for us to look at because there are a number of jobs that will align well enough to actually, we could use their job descriptions and their wage things and so on to compare to ours. But, and you said out of 15, most of them will line up. Now,
No, she's saying this study proposal is for analyzing 15 of our positions.
of
At
our
our library,
positions.
right.
Okay.
Right.
I sent her a list of all of our
Gotcha.
positions, and
Gotcha.
she said 15.
Okay.
So this is just our library who's doing this?
Yeah.
Well, independently, right.
Independently.
It just so happens Goffstown's doing this same study. That's how Yvette heard about it, through GMILKS. And then because they're doing it now, some of that data can be shared because of similar positions.
I'm
Everybody's so
interested.
quiet tonight.
Does it say somewhere in this report which positions,
Um,
which ones?
I don't know
are
if
and are
it's.
not covered?
I don't know if it says that, but I have an email that I can forward to you if you want to know. But
I'm curious
I
of
don't
what the
think I printed it.
positions are that they aren't covering, because it's not all of them. It's-
Well, she's saying it's because some of them we have the same position with multiple people with that same position.
Okay, I misunderstood that.
I don't know because we have. Let's say we have 5 library aides, so that's
I
one
misunderstood what
position.
you meant.
Right.
Okay. So we have 15 unique positions.
Yes.
Got it.
Right. Right.
Classify 15 positions, that's what you're speaking of, those
Yes.
15.
Mm-hmm. And then they look at compensation and comparable, value. What are the other people paying? What is the
I would assume most libraries have about the same job descriptions for about the same kind of positions, though.
depends. Like here, there's there's kind of been multitasking.
Right.
We might
Because
give
we don't have an assistant director, for example, whereas another town of our size would certainly have an assistant director or
Right.
something like that. So,
or you might have just the page job, just the aid job, where we have page/aid
Well,
positions.
other libraries don't have a business manager
mhm,
or an office manager.
Mhm.
That's what she is now.
yeah, office
So,
manager, yeah.
I think what we've been doing in the past is kind of cobbling together some information, and it hasn't produced desired results. Our desired results are, trying to get a cost of living raise for our staff. I think anytime you do an outside study, it's not slanted. It's objective, and I think that is very helpful. I think another thing when I look at positions, when we're posting positions, you really, and I don't think there's a way to communicate this, or it doesn't seem to communicate. If I have a position that's open in Merrimack for part-time reference, and Bedford has a position open for part-time reference, and Bedford can pay more, or Manchester or Nashua can pay more. If the candidate can commute to Merrimack, they can also commute to Bedford or Nashua or Manchester. But Manchester and Nashua are union libraries. They can offer more, and we can never compete with them. But it's essentially the same job. Someone who's going to work in reference part-time, there's not a lot of variation to a reference desk. We might have some because of the kind of events and programs and classes that we're offering, or how we might divide up managing a collection, or how much time is on a desk. You know, that might be a little bit different. In our library, because we're a physically small library, our reference staff will jump behind the circ desk and cover when it's busy. Manchester, the reference department is in a totally different place than the circulation. It's a different floor. I don't even know if it's a different floor, but it's certainly a different area of the building to do those kind of jobs. So you're not going to need cross-training in Manchester, and yet they will be able to offer a higher wage. But our people are doing more because of the space. So but it's also the commuting, if a candidate can commute from one to the other, they might want to commute a little bit longer to get paid a little bit more. And pay for parking in Manchester or Nashua. Pay for parking in Merrimack.
So what I'm hearing is that this is an investment that will help us support our requests for wages.
I think
for the budget, and also will help with information in order to hire new staff members competitively.
I think, those are probably two byproducts or two benefits of a study. I think, just looking at it, we're still working with a pay scale that is needs to be overhauled. The pay scale has been modified by previous boards without any real reason, without any real data. Previous boards added another column and didn't require, as I understand it, didn't require staff to have any additional training, education, or anything else. It's just add. And if what I've seen, I think that was, 2008, 2007. Those were when these practices kind of ended in that time, if I'm looking at PARs correctly. It's a challenge when I have staff who've been here in the library and employment for 15, 20 years, and they're at a high rate of pay because they were employed during those, rich years when things were just kind of being maybe arbitrarily added. Another step was added. And now I'm coming in and asking them to increase their skill set without any additional pay. The jobs are changing. The job has changed. But the economy has also changed. So I think if we kind of were able to do a study like this, get the data and start back at zero or have a starting place rather than struggling with this outdated wage classification, I think it would be great. It would be very helpful. We might be able to look at our positions and we might say, okay, great, everyone is being paid fairly in market value. That would be wonderful to be confident and say we're people are getting paid.
Yeah, essentially what I was asking you is why should we do this and spend this money, especially if somebody else is doing it and we can look at it as far as job descriptions or whatever. But why should we do it specifically?
I don't. If Boston is paying for theirs, why should they give that to me for free?
Well, absolutely. Right. You're absolutely right. So essentially what I was asking is why should we do it specifically for Merrimack? And you just told me. Okay.
Do they also update job descriptions for us, or is that...
No, that's another...
You're giving them that information.
That's another project I'm working on,
okay,
which I had to halt in December. I have to pick that up again. I had been speaking with the town attorney,
that's right,
or it was an attorney in the town attorney's office, and sending all of our full-time positions to her so that she could review them and make sure, not make sure, but really try and interpret which ones are salaried and which ones are not salaried. because that was something that came up during our budget planning in the fall. And I have to actually pick up that. She wanted a lot of pieces of paper from me. She wanted a lot of information from me that I've had to gather from the staff, and then the holidays hit. So, she, the MRI will have, the MRI company will have everything that we have up to date. We've been working when we've been evaluating the staff. We've been updating everyone's job description. There are a couple of positions that we haven't done the evaluation on the staff yet, but I think it might be, 4, maybe 4 positions, maybe 3 positions that we haven't done yet.
Okay.
Some that will be included in this review with the attorney.
How long do you think that'll take?
I need to do it, and I need to have no one bother me while I finish gathering things. I think the attorney's office is able to turn that stuff around, depending on their workload. I don't know, a couple weeks. But I don't think a wage classification study has to wait until that project is done.
I didn't hear what the project was. Which one were you asking about? That the attorney is reviewing now?
The job descriptions.
Oh,
Yeah,
Updated-
MRI will
job
not rewrite the
descriptions.
job descriptions. That's something that we've been
I
doing,
see. Yes.
and then having the attorney check it.
Okay.
And one of the questions that I've had for the attorney is, which positions are salaried and not salaried? Which ones are salaried and which ones are hourly? Because this came up when, back in the
Right,
fall,
whole
we were...
exempt or not exempt.
Exactly.
and-
We were talking about schedules and hours and that,
Whole thing.
yes,
I remember that, yes.
yes.
Okay.
So, we need to vote on whether we want to move forward with this, and whether we're...
The wage and classification.
Do we have to vote on this tonight? Because I haven't had a chance
Do you
to
wanna
read through
review
this
it?
whole thing. I mean, do we have to commit to this tonight, or can we wait till our next meeting?
Well, I'm going to ask the Development Fund if they're willing to pay 1/3 on Thursday. And I can't be at the Friends meeting because we're going to be at the Town Council meeting on the 25th. So I've already been emailing with Claire.
Well, I'll be at the Friends.
Well, then read it, because then you can better explain it for me. But I've written her an email, and I can send you a copy of whatever I've sent to her in terms of my description of it. But it's pretty much we're asking for people to share the burden of the cost. I think last time we went to the Development Fund and said, hey, will you fund the website? And,
Yeah.
I don't know how I don't know how groups feel about saying, hey, you want to pay for $5,000 and it's,
Right. I think that would be a fair split of it. And it does say, so the timeline, it says commencement of the project upon contractor agreement March. So I think we've got, we don't want to wait too long and not have that time start.
Yeah,
But
if you guys are comfortable, we could vote on this tonight.
Well, you're still going to need to read it for the Friends.
Yeah, so I'll read
So for next
that.
next Monday, and then
We could have a special quick business meeting and.
if you want to have time, I've reviewed it, but I had it before, so.
Yeah, I haven't really,
Okay.
I don't mind
I
a quick
haven't really
meeting.
reviewed it
No, I
thoroughly
haven't either.
But with the whole overall concept, I don't have an issue with that,
Yeah.
really.
Okay. So why don't we do that? Why don't we say everyone will read it? I'll ask Janet to do the same, and then we can do a quick meeting at some point before our February meeting.
are you comfortable with me asking the other two groups? Because
Sure.
it just seemed like kind of.
I don't see any problem with asking them. I mean, we won't take the money until we agree to do it. But this way, they'll be aware that this is in the background and that they're going to be asked for the money. And if they're willing to do that, that's not jumping the gun, really.
Okay.
At least not in my eyes.
Is this something you've sent to them yet?
I think I think I sent it to Development Fund. I definitely sent it to the Friends, and I'd have to check my emails to see if I
Okay,
sent it to
I'm just
Development
thinking they
Fund.
might want to do the same thing, and since they only meet occasionally, if we could at least, I don't know if they'll have time, if you haven't sent it, if we could send it tomorrow,
Okay.
maybe they'd have time to look at it before the meeting Thursday. Okay. So our next new business is Rotary Club. Karen asked me to put this on there. It's a topic we've talked about before of, Jana Angus was, when she was director, was a member of the Rotary Club. And we've talked about it and just never kind of followed through on whether or not we felt Yvette could join the Rotary Club. Do you want to? Do you have time to?
Well, that's the thing that
yeah.
worries me, is that it's, I don't know very much about it, but Peter Flood is on the Town Center Committee, and you've spoken with him in passing in various town events, and he emailed me out of the blue. He'd mentioned it, but he emailed me out of the blue like last week or something like that, and asked if, if you would be interested in, being put forth to become a member, and but that he wouldn't feel comfortable about it unless the trustees agreed that you should be a member. And so I have a feeling that there is a time commitment and a money commitment, and I don't know how you feel about it.
What's the benefit to the library in Yvette spending her time that way?
I think it's more networking,
Community
being able to
support
yeah.
the Merrimack Rotary Club, and also they do charitable, which the library does. I don't know. And there's also there's like, I think, weekly breakfasts,
It's weekly meetings
weekly
Like 7
meetings
o'clock.
with
in the morning.
dues.
at 7 o'clock,
Yes, yes.
and there's speakers.
Mm-hmm. Did he invite any of the trustees to be members of the Rotary instead of me? So we have a library representative.
No, he was pretty specific about you. What he did is he said, she would be welcome. Yvette would be welcome to come to breakfast, and he put out a time and a date, and then he said, and you can come too. And that's as far as he's gone. And I just said, okay, I will present this to the trustees. And I did send him an email day before yesterday asking him what would the average weekly cost be, what would the time commitment be. I don't know. He's a busy person and he's on lots of committees, but I haven't received an answer yet, so.
Well, Yvette, do you think this is a place where your time would be well spent, given the constraints we have at the library right now?
I think it'd be a challenge right now.
I think it'd be overstretching.
I mean, I did just join the board of the chamber,
Oh,
so
Commerce.
yeah, which isn't a financial commitment. It's a time commitment, but it's more like once a month.
If he invited the both of you to the breakfast, is
Well,
this
I'm
something
gonna
the
see,
two of you can-
see him
I was-
Friday.
I was going to say, is this something the two of you can attend the breakfast and just
just to
find
learn
out more of
and, yeah.
what benefits the library would get out of having a member being involved or something?
I've been to breakfast with them, so
Okay.
I mean, if you want to take someone else,
Well,
Oh.
what you're saying essentially is that at this time, with the time constraints that you have, making that kind of a time commitment as well as financial, but particularly time commitment, would just, it would make your job that much harder.
Besides, she has to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, she's an early bird.
I'm
then.
up at 5. I'm having my coffee at 5:30.
If there's an option and somebody is willing, a member of the trustees, I can't do a 7 o'clock on a weekday. I've got kids I'm getting off to school, so.
Which
but if,
is-
anyone else is available, and they'd be willing to sponsor a trustee in place of Yvette, then maybe that's something we could look into too. But somebody
We
has to.
table this for now.
Yeah,
I will, I'll tell him on Friday.
I mean,
see if maybe
I don't-
you'd be willing to come to the next meeting and just talk to us about the Rotary.
yeah, that might be an option.
I need to do that. How long can we carry this out?
Well, I mean,
I wouldn't mind joining. I think that would be great, but it's not possible. So
Perhaps we should just table it for now and revisit it at another time.
that's what I'm putting in the minutes. Table for future discussion.
Can I add something to the agenda, which I probably didn't email you? I think under new business, can we talk about the 3D printer policy?
What?
The 3D printer policy?
Policy.
Okay.
do you have copies?
I do, but I have to figure out where, which
Okay,
pile.
that's good.
Okay. Oop, okay. Okay, so a little update on the 3D printer timeline before we get into the policy.
Well, are we skipping treasurer's report and all that? Or we
Yeah,
Well, we're still in new
I'm
business.
inserting,
We're
because
still
this
in
is
new
new,
business.
this is
We're
new
going
business, so
before
I'm
it.
inserting.
I'm sorry.
So we have the ribbon cutting is scheduled for the 30th of January, which is a Saturday at noon.
Mm-hmm.
The cabinet should be installed this Friday,
Well,
and then the printer should be installed Saturday.
wow.
That's what Rob preferred, to maybe break out that project into 2 days. And then staff would be trained on the printer next week, but that hasn't been scheduled. We have the printer's going to be located on the corner of the tile. So we've had Dick Lambert come in, and between him and Alex, the catalogs and the internet stations are all being prepared to be removed from that area. And then we can rearrange the furniture a little bit. There's some workstation tables that are going to, one's going to stay to be a workstation for the computer that's going with the printer, and then the others are going to go away for now. So, okay, I guess that's the floor plan and the ribbon cutting plan. So I went and looked at a couple of other policies from other libraries that have 3D printers, and you'll see the back page has procedures from Portsmouth Public Library. The second page has what other libraries are charging. Actually, I have some updates on that. So the policies from the other libraries are very similar to what I'm giving you. Thingiverse has a set of guidelines about, which is really under number 1. The library's 3D printers may be used for lawful purposes only, and then the points A, B, C, and D. Those are all things that are in the Thingiverse guidelines that all of the libraries have chosen to include or recommended to include in their policies. For us, when I looked at Portsmouth, Portsmouth Public Library, I think is a good library to take some guidance from, because they have a really, what appears to be a very robust 3D printing community. Their website has a page dedicated to their 3D printer, and it just seems to be the thing that we would strive to be. So their policy actually has ages 10 and up. It's a card holder. Ages 10 and up can make three-dimensional objects. I would take that age restriction out because our card holders can be 6. Someone who's 6 years old can have their own card, and I think anyone who is creating, maybe they're younger than 6, or certainly younger than 10, and are creating something, and they bring in their SD card, and they want to present it to be in a queue to print. The staff will be running the printer. Why not?
They're not actually touching.
Yeah, they're not actually doing
No one's
the
touching it
equipment.
except staff.
So maybe it's only the staff will be the ones operating it. The public will not actually
Yes.
operate it,
That's what the other libraries are doing.
which makes sense.
Yeah, it's mostly the staff are trained to do it. In Amherst, it's a volunteer-run program.
That's neat.
The Amherst printer was donated, and so the whole project is being run by volunteers, so the volunteers touch it. There are staff that also touch it. They haven't had any kind of public printing days. Right now it's really scheduled stuff. So we're kind of, when I speak to Alex about how is it going to run in Merrimack, we're trying, it's a little on the fly and trying to figure out what would work best. And then, I think the procedures can be fine-tuned once we have it up and running and really see how people are interacting with this whole project. But I don't think we need to have an age restriction. I don't see the
How do
logic in
kids, if a kid wanted to use a printer, well, we have a fee associated with the printing.
That's coming up. So
Like our photocopier, I mean.
you have to pay 10 cents to run a Xerox.
Right.
So go ahead.
If a kid wants to print a whole bunch of stuff, does it take parental consent?
On the printer?
Yeah, with the photocopier or the printers.
I don't think so, no.
Parental consent.
No.
Okay.
But it also falls under our patron policy
Mm-hmm.
of children have to be with an adult, right?
Supervised, that's
So-
right, yeah.
So
Okay,
it's
that
not like
covers it,
there's
yeah.
a 7-year-old going and printing without an adult with them.
I don't know that I've ever actually seen a kid work the copier. I don't think I don't know. So I think the where it falls, where libraries differ is in the cost of the item, and it's per gram. So Portsmouth is charging 5 cents a gram. A gram is a paperclip. So I don't know what the average object is going to weigh. Alex and I have been going back and forth about this. A roll of filament is a kilogram, so that's 1,000 grams. So you can get, again, I don't know what the average objects are going to weigh. I don't think anyone's going to be printing a paperclip, but Bedford and Wadley charge 20 cents a gram. Keene charges nothing. They don't get enough. People aren't using so much filament that they feel they have to charge. And then Amherst, at this point, just says that a fee will be charged to offset the printing cost, but they don't have any public printing happening yet.
How
So
much does it cost per spool?
$25 for regular color and $30 for glow in the dark. So we're purchasing with our turkey shoot funds 9 rolls of regular color, so it's $225, and then 2 rolls of glow in the dark, and he's throwing in 2 rolls of regular color. So we have an abundance of rolls coming, and then we also still have turkey shoot funds if we need to buy more rolls. One of the things that Alex and I were kicking around today, I think I wouldn't want, I wouldn't want people's excitement about us acquiring a 3D printer to become dampened because now we're suddenly hitting them with a cost. And I'm not sure what the object's average weight is. We'd have to get a scale, and you put your SD card in, the thing prints, the staff notifies the patron when the printing is completed, and any struts that are printed with the object, you pay for the struts, the weight of the struts as well, and then you tell someone, okay, it costs, 70 cents or whatever, and then they have to pay for the item and they can take the item. But I wouldn't want the excitement that we're trying to build around this object to be dampened by suddenly hitting people with a charge. One thing Alex and I were kicking around was that maybe for the first 6 months we don't charge anyone anything so that we can see how it works,
Right.
And what kind of interest we have. One of the things Rob was suggesting was, well, maybe for a cost you have up to this weight is free, and over this weight then you start doing the increments of 5
Sounds
cents
good,
or 10
right.
cents per something. But I feel like I'm trying to price something that doesn't exist yet, and I'm not sure what the point is of charging anyone. So Alex was saying, well, I asked the board, what's the point of, if we're going to charge people for this, what's the point? I don't think we're going to make money. He was figuring if it's 1,000 grams, then, and the cost of a regular filament roll is $25, then it's and we're being charged $25. They're making some money. Are we making money? I don't know.
Make $50 for the entire roll, or it's costing $25 to,
Right.
so, you're not making tons.
No.
But,
Well, maybe we could do as you just mentioned, is to study, keep track of what is printed and how much it weighs and what the usage is, and gather some data
Yeah.
for 6 months to a year,
I like that
and go
idea.
from there after a year.
Right.
I would be much more comfortable doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
We'll do it free to the friends.
well, no, free free overall.
I'm saying, if
After
you're
the-
after
after the
the 6
trial.
months, if you're a friend of the you're a member of the Friends of the Library, you can still use it for free. And
That's kind of a
non-friends have to
neat
pay.
incentive.
I think mostly it'll be non-friends that'll be. But anyways, I think that might be reasonable to gather data so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, because we might have an object printed that is heavier, something, a part for something.
Well, if somebody comes in and they start to get excessive, I think then,
How frequent is that going to be? We don't know yet.
no.
You know?
But I mean, I wouldn't even, not sure what that would be either.
Exactly.
So I think the gathering of data, keeping track of everything for your, having somebody appointed on the staff to monitor that and be responsible for keeping that data will then give us something to work from in the future.
Yeah.
And we'll know what our costs will be as well. So we need to not only monitor the usage, the weight, all these stats with it, but what are our costs with that every year.
Which is the other thing that, to charge. What about maintenance? What about, is there a certain amount of filament or a number of objects or something where the machine will have to be maintained in some way?
I don't know.
I don't
That's
know.
another piece that we don't
Because
know.
I'm trying to think of why we would need money once. Now, we have some money that is dedicated to the printer, but it's not a huge amount. The 5 cents a gram sounds like it would buy us filament, depending on how much it's used. It may not be used enough that we'll have to,
Right.
really have a continuous fund. I like the idea also of it being free for 6 months to a year, and then,
Is there a warranty on this printer?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It's included in the cost of the printer, which is $12.50. I can send around, this is the invoice that he sent us that we approved. If you want to peek at that.
So he didn't give you any information on, that after so many uses or after so much time, it needs to be cleaned or
No,
something like that?
No, but that's a good question. I don't know.
and then, and I assume we would have to maybe, pay for them to come in and do that, or at least something. And so that would come out of that same Friends fund, I would think. Because, right now we're thinking that the only cost will be the filament, and we just don't know how much it's going to be.
So it says warranty, but it doesn't say the length of time.
So this isn't really a policy you're proposing, because most of this policy is about money.
This is what the other libraries have as their policies.
Right, but this is not what you're proposing.
That is what I'm proposing. But if we take out the fee, and one thing we could do if we decide to do a fee in the future is put it in our fees schedule. We have a fines and fees schedule that talks about the cost of printing a piece of paper. It talks about late fees, and that's a separate chart. That's something where this can go. So the policy could stay the same in the fee, advertised in another section of the library website.
Well,
I
3,
think
4,
for
and
now,
5.
we're going to have to just eliminate cost or make a statement that there's no charge at this time and change the policy when we decide to implement a cost and for what our criteria is around that. Because basically here you're saying, we're not putting an age limit on it.
Yep.
That it has to be used lawfully, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Number C, under 1, otherwise obscene or otherwise inappropriate for the library environment is a little vague.
No, that goes, the public will not be permitted to use the library's 3D printers to create material that is obscene or otherwise inappropriate for the library environment. When you look
Oh,
at
we had a
things,
capital letter, that's
yeah,
what's
when you
right.
look at things that are obscene, it's subjective.
Well, no, right,
So-
okay.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The library
You have things that are
reserves-
offensive and things that are obscene. This conversation always comes up with library materials, because something I find obscene, you will not find obscene necessarily. So that's a subjective thing, but I mean, we just won't print that job.
Best
Right.
judgment, yeah.
But we're reserving the right to refuse, and number 2,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to leave out the cost.
So leave out 3, 4, and 5.
Although you might want something like, we reserve the right to change and have a fee or something at some point. Should we say?
Yeah, you can make a statement that, to that. There also, that patrons will be responsible for any damage that might be incurred to the machine if they should incur it, whatever that would be.
Well, if the library's doing that printing, though,
I know, but you never know. Somebody could come in and drop something on top of the printer. You know what I mean? They're responsible for that.
But it's in a case, right?
It's in a
It's
case, yeah.
enclosed. It's
Yeah.
going to be enclosed.
I'd be a little more comfortable if there was something that said if there's any damage as a result of their action, that they would be responsible for the cost of it, whatever that might be.
That might come under the
I don't know.
warranty.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Is there something like that in our patron code of conduct, or?
I had a question about number 6. Is there a reason why we're
That's
28
Uh,
hours?
that was a Portsmouth Public Library. I think that's something else we need to gather some data on, because what Rob has said is when he prints an object that's going to take, we're open 11 hours from 10 to 9. So if someone comes in at 10 o'clock in the morning and puts their queue, we can run the queue at 10, first person, and it's going to be a 15-hour job. I don't know what this thing is. It couldn't be that big. Then we have to have it running past close, when we're
Yeah,
closed.
you can't watch it.
So
Yeah.
it's not observed. Rob said he runs the printer overnight, and in his
Well, how long
Russian.
does it take to print the
Depends on
average
what you're
object?
printing.
Yeah, that's a big
Depends.
thing. It can
Well,
be
at the
big.
turkey shoot, right, the thing was like
Yeah.
this big.
that was 15
and
minutes.
That was 15 minutes.
So
So one would
Some of the
hope.
jobs we print at my office, they print if they're making a new retail product, they sometimes print it out to see how it holds in your hand. If it's like a handheld device, they'll make a full-size version of it, and depending on what it is, if it's like the size of that vase, it might take a couple hours to print.
So you would think if it's 10
Depends
hours,
on-
then they're using all our, they're using all our filament or whatever.
maybe the roll runs out and you have to change the roll. But we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
know how long it
I
takes to
think
run
that
through
would be
a roll.
excessive.
See, personally, instead of limiting it to 10 hours, because at this point, do we even know how long things are going to print until we
No.
start printing them?
But the time, when you hear about a time restraint, it's usually because we've closed. And we
Yeah.
don't want things printing. You can't have a print job running when the library is unstaffed.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
At
I mean,
least to
my
get
opinion would be,
comfortable with
you
it.
know, have it worded something like the print jobs will be queued. You know, it won't be a first come first served basis. It'll be based on, you know, the library staff judging who's is going to print the fastest versus which ones are going to take the longest. And if it's a long job, maybe you kick it off as you're closing up the library, and then it'll be done in the morning. You know, something like that.
So you're saying that one of these lines should be that the library has the right to schedule the printing of an object at its discretion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody printing a little
Yeah.
thing that's going to take 15 minutes, they could
Yeah.
just put that one ahead of everybody else because everybody else has, you know, these big objects that they're
Yeah.
printing.
And the multi-piece requests, that also, right there in 6, where people are requesting more than one thing at that
Yeah.
time.
You're
That
doing a
also-
whole chess set or something.
Yeah, yeah, actually, that was one of the things I was
Yeah.
looking at, you know,
Yeah.
going, oh, you can make your own chess
Right.
set, you know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be, you know, for them to monopolize it for that.
And if you have, you know, 4 people requesting something in black and only one person requesting something in red, might as well get all the black printing done and then switch, because then you have to switch out the filament and everything.
Right. Well, that depends too, if somebody just used the red and there's red in the machine or
Yeah,
something like that. You know,
that's why
those
I'm
are the
saying,
different
you know,
things that could come up.
It should be up to the staff of what order things get printed in, not a first come, first served basis. But again, it's, you know, once we start seeing how it's used, some of these we might want to change.
Do any of the libraries like schedule times, like reserve time for
I think I'd have to look.
It's almost like Amherst did, since theirs is run by volunteers.
Okay. Bedford has this wording about the 10 hours. Keene. Keene does not say.
The other thing is, I don't know that we can, it says here under this third page, under tips for selecting an object to print, make sure that it's an original design, not an object or character that is subject to copyright, trademark, or trademark protection. I don't know that we'd be able to monitor that fully. I mean, if someone happens to be familiar with, what's it called, Minecraft and these video games, I mean, if somebody came in with an object, said, I want you to print this, and it was a I wouldn't know.
I think it's best
I d-
judgment. you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, we
Yeah.
just have to.
Well, it's D. It's 1D is the same thing.
And that's putting kind of the ownership of that on.
I'm just saying we can't
person who's
police that
bringing it in.
necessarily, because
Right.
we wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
have that knowledge.
That's a good point, because one of the things I was looking at, they have all sorts of websites with either free objects that you could print or for a fee objects. There are tons of them that are characters from video games that they just don't make action figures for or whatever, or just, you know, objects from video games. They have, like, you know, reproductions of the little balls that you pick up in some game or some, you know, or some weird thing.
I think the big thing is, it wouldn't be so bad if somebody did and we didn't know it. It's really what their intent of use is. If their intent with that object is to sell it, now you've got a real infringement of law. But if their intent is, you know, play it on a board game or something, pretty harmless.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine anyone could use the printer as to make objects that they would sell.
Do we want to put something in here then for, you know, reselling? So you don't have somebody printing to basically use the library for their own personal business.
Well, we have
How do you police
lots of
that?
people who use the library for their own personal
No,
business.
but I mean, it-
I mean, that's something we can't monitor that.
Right. I don't know how you. I mean, they. You know, they're just going to say
Well,
no.
if
It's
somebody-
just
Put
for
it in
me.
a policy statement that 3D printed objects are not, because we can't police it.
Right.
But
I
if
don't
somebody
know.
comes in and say, you
Tell.
know, they come in with some kind of little action figure, for instance, and they say they want 30 of them printed,
Yeah.
then you kind of have to look and say, well, what do you plan on doing
I
with
don't know
30
if
of
that's
these?
something
you
we
know?
kind of wait and see what happens, and then if that becomes an issue, then we, you know, like we do a policy in
Yeah,
response to a
again,
problem.
I think,
Um,
how is it going to be used? Yeah.
Right.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to make a statement that it's not used for objects printed by a
Personal
printer, not
use.
for resale.
Yeah, it's not just personal use. Personal use is
Personal
fine,
use is
but
okay,
resale
for resale
or profit.
or profit, yeah. At this stage.
Schedule and access to the 3D printer will be determined by the library staff. Okay.
Oh, yeah, number 9 covers that.
Yep.
Yeah, overall, this looks pretty good.
Yeah. I would just take 3, 4, and 5 out just for now. And maybe put in a statement saying, we reserve the right at a later date to charge a,
Wasn't there a scanner you were gonna get with this?
We're borrowing the scanner right now. It's on the invoice that I passed around. Then we can see if we like it, if we like that particular scanner, and then purchase it. You know, Rob said that the one he is letting us borrow is $400 to buy, but he didn't want us to spend any money on a scanner.
The scanner is what I'd like to see how it works.
Well, here's the thing. At the ribbon cutting, he suggested, because Liz and I were talking about doing a drawing to see who's going to be the first person who's going to be able to print their object off of the printer, and Rob was like, "That's fine, but let's get a chair, get an office chair, and we'll do the scanner and we'll scan people, and like scan them, have them spin around, and then print that, print a bust of them."
That's cool.
As the first object. So I don't know who's going to be the person. We're still kind of
Yeah.
figuring out how to draw a name.
A
But
display case with all the library staff butts.
Oh, that would be awesome. Oh, that
I'm sure
would be
everyone will
awesome.
really
Merrimack
want to
Library Museum.
That would be awesome. Well, I want to see how the scanner works, because the cup holder in my car is broken in the back seat, and I want to scan it and see if I can
Oh.
actually make a new one.
Cool.
yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I'm looking to see if I could do with it.
Well, if the scanner, we haven't floated the idea that you can check out the scanner and take that home and scan all the bunch of stuff like in your car, because
Right.
you'd have to take the scanner out of the building.
Yeah. Well, right now my cup holder's broken. I could take it out of my car.
Oh, there you go.
At the library.
Perfect.
There's just
Can
one
imagine.
goal: is get yourself a new cup holder. It's good to have a goal. It's okay. I'm looking at the Amherst policy, and they have something that it sounds like this might help you, Laura. The Amherst Town Library is not responsible for any damage, loss, or security of data arising from the use of its computer or network, nor the functionality or quality of the content produced on the 3D printer. Would that
I
help
think
you?
that's a
I think
reasonable.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Because no one's
Yeah, I think
touching
that's
it.
good. Yeah.
But even so, things go wrong.
Yeah, because I can add a damage thing, but I'm not sure what the damage is. So,
Yeah, I like that. That
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
covers
and then
it.
the library reserves the right to determine the order of the print jobs
Yep.
if we need to add a little more to the schedule part.
And then objects cannot be resold. Or not for sale, resale.
I don't know if I can. I don't know.
No?
That's really getting. I can't. I'm sure it's making my libraryness, my library sensors tingle. Like I think people use information that they get at the library all the time to.
Good jobs.
Yeah, I mean to
Yeah.
improve
Monetary,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean I'm not sure if.
Well, that's information, it's not an object.
You know what you could say instead of that is something like something about excessive print jobs.
I think
You
that's
kinda
also
just-
We don't know yet.
starting to get into someone's personal business that we don't normally, that's not our practice. you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
but if they're
I
coming in
guess-
and they're monopolizing the printer and they're printing off 50 of something like every single day, and we're not charging them for the for the plastic or whatever.
Number
But I
8
think-
kind of covers that,
So, okay.
because it just says, the library reserves the right to review the files before printing, to refuse scanning and producing any content at any time at the discretion of the library staff.
Yeah, so that's nice and
whenever
open and
you're not
vague.
comfortable with it,
See,
just, no.
yeah, I think that's part of that. Let's see how it's used. And
yeah.
who's doing what?
I mean, I think we like to assume everyone will do things fairly and equitably. You know, there's always a situation, and I can't think of anything specifically right now, obviously, but, you know, there's always a situation where, you know, there's one person who's taking advantage of and just kind of skirting a policy. It would be a little easier to actually see that happen and then be able to write something a little more specific to it.
Yeah, this is sort of
Yeah,
like
this- I thought-
preliminary policy, which
Well, we have to
would be
put something out
down-
there. You know, we
right,
got to put something
right.
out there, and then we can
Right.
adjust it. You know, because you know, a lot of the policies you have to have the basic stuff, which is the number one,
Yep.
and then we can always refuse. I mean, this is actually it's written twice. On 2, we reserve the right to refuse, and then in 8, we reserve the right to review
Right.
and refuse. You know, so you know how to determine that something is not printable. You know, we can go back to number 1. It's prohibited. It's unsafe. It's obscene. It's in violation of someone's intellectual property rights. You know, if someone is taking advantage of the library's 3D printer to run a business on the side, you know. I don't know. We have people who, you know, there's some folks who use the meeting room as an office, and they're on their phone, and
But
if they're not
but-
bothering anyone.
But you don't allow people to come in and have a meeting and charge people to attend and
Mm-hmm.
conduct business like that. So I think that covers it for now, right? It can
We'll
always
revisit
be.
in 6 months after
Yeah.
we see how it's used.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to make the changes and bring them back to us? Do you want us to approve it with
the
the
changes?
changes?
I think we
that
can
you
approve it with the changes, you know, because then,
Everybody's comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
you know,
Yeah,
You-
it needs
you
to be
always-
ready by then.
You always
Funding
can.
or ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're going to revisit in 6 months anyway, so I'm sure we'll have changes then.
Yeah.
okay.
I think having copies available out on the desk at the ribbon
Yeah.
cutting will be a good thing to do.
Okay, so,
Covered, you know, the obscenities and the
It's on the website,
inappropriate
isn't it?
use.
Hmm?
Well, not yet.
What?
We have to
About the
approve this.
printer.
It's on the website
That's
for,
what-
it's as a day.
Oh, as a
The
day.
event, the ribbon cutting event is on it with all that information, but,
Okay.
um,
And then is there any place where information about the printer will be included on the website?
I would like to make a website, just a page of the 3D printer, but I can't do that until I have a policy, because that can go in, and then we can have a
Okay.
history of it, and then the procedures would go with it, but
Right, okay.
until I have something to start with, I can't have that.
okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the 3D printer policy with changes
changes.
as discussed.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 400.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it seems like it was fast, but it really wasn't that fast, but it just seems like we just had the turkey shoot.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It was-
So I have if you want cards, invitations to the ribbon cutting, I brought
Oh.
some, you know, there's a bunch. I haven't looked at your list that you sent me today in detail, but I had the other
I
turkey
don't.
shoot donor list
I don't know of anybody to
Those
invite,
are
but maybe
being mailed.
if I see-
I'll look.
The one I sent you has all the addresses. And
Yeah, so anything that I didn't have already, I'll just add those. But an email has already gone out to the Friends of the Library, because they were the main donors for this. And, I've gotten one RSVP back already from an email that went out Saturday. So
You said you got the town council.
I haven't written those out yet, but that was your
The
request.
School board,
Yeah, that's,
Mhm.
maybe
Okay.
even Marge Chaffrey,
Okay.
the superintendent,
yeah,
just,
that's a good
she
idea.
might get an idea of, how to
Mhm.
use it for the schools,
So good. All good ideas.
the 3D printer.
Okay, what's next? Treasurer's report.
Yes. All right. Okay. Which one is it? Special checking account. Okay, where are we? All right. So we started December 1st at $9,327.87. And we ended on December 31st, $9,457.67. So a difference of 400. No, I'm sorry. There was an increase. This isn't right. Yeah, increase of just over $100. All right, then the fines checking, we started December 1st at $14,366.86. Ended December 31st at $15,752.89.
$0.95 interest.
It's something.
Sort of.
We didn't have any outgoing expenses for the fines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What is out-of-state ILL?
Where's
That is when we have someone requesting an item that we have to pay postage on.
Oh,
Because the in-state interlibrary loans are delivered in the state van.
right.
But if it's something that someone's willing to, if it's in Massachusetts and someone says, oh, no, I'll pay the postage, then we charge them the
Oh,
postage because they want the item.
Do we get a lot of those out-of-state
No.
ones?
No, it's like once a month maybe. It's not frequent, it happens.
Okay. Any other questions on those? Okay. Director's report.
No, you didn't send these out, correct?
I didn't, and I had all these last-minute changes that I scribbled, so I didn't even think I should Xerox it because there were so many scribbles on it, so.
So now
We'll
we're
listen.
scribbling. Oh, so we don't have it?
No, but,
Survive.
no, I didn't, no. Okay, so, I can give you a copy of this
appreciate it.
after,
Yes, because
Wait.
that's pretty much what I do. is-
I know, yeah. So we received, some donations last minute. We have a donation of $300 from Heather McDonald, who is a patron, and this is undesignated. This came in at the end of the year.
Oh, that's nice.
You donated to the library?
Yes.
She
Okay, here
didn't
we go.
specify what she wanted it toward?
Mm-mm.
That's very good news.
Is that included in your director's report,
What?
the $300 donation?
Yes, and I have a check. I have a letter for you to sign, Jack. So you can look at that, and she can sign it, and then I can sign it. There's a copy of the check underneath if you wanted to see it.
Oh, it's really nice.
Very nice.
I think that's blowing out cold air.
I think it's so cold outside that if you had to compare, this would be warm.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So you need to vote to accept it.
I'll
Okay.
make the motion to accept.
What are we accepting, the $300?
$300,
Yeah.
yep.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 400.
Okay, I have another donation. I'll just read the email. I received this today. This is from Elizabeth Smith at FLIR Systems, and it was emailed to Liz Gattaco in Youth Services. Dear Ms. Gattaco, on behalf of FLIR FLIR Systems, we are pleased to inform you that Merrimack Public Library has been selected for a $1,000 charitable giving donation to sponsor youth programming and materials. Someone will be in touch soon to discuss the next steps, as we are required for compliance purposes to have a couple of documents completed. Please let me know if you have any questions. We hope this donation will support the good work you are doing there. Sincerely, Elizabeth Smith, HR Business Partner, Instruments and Maritime, FLIR. This is a company in Nashua.
I'm sorry, what's it called? Flare?
FLIR?
What do they do?
I don't know.
They give us $1,000.
Just sponsor youth programming and
Did you say
materials.
merchant in there? I'm just a little
It's coming your
flabbergasted.
way. You can.
I kind of think this is Liz's other friend, Liz, who helps out at a lot of the teen events.
Oh.
And so she knows about the library, and she's helped out. And because I remember when we did the Harry Potter party, she was
She
there.
was there,
and,
right? Yeah.
she's been when our Liz has done
Oh, she helped with
Frozen.
the Star Wars
She
thing,
was,
didn't she?
yeah, she helps out a lot, and volunteers with us. So she was
Okay,
interested
so
in
she
having
has a
her company,
connection. Okay, that's
donate
nice.
towards the youth
Okay.
services programs because she's been involved in
So
the youth
there's a
services
connection.
programs.
That's wonderful.
That's what I was
Yes.
looking for, is where did this come from?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think that's the other Liz.
Okay.
So if you've been to the library and you've seen our Liz as
Elizabeth
Elsa,
Smith. Yep.
the other Liz was Anna. And they were totally in
okay.
their costumes.
Hmm.
So, but she was also in the Harry
nice.
Potter party. I'm trying to think what house she was in. I'm not sure which house she was in.
Slytherin.
I'm sure. It
No, I was in
Slytherin.
Slytherin house, but I'm not sure. She might have been in Hufflepuff.
Make the motion to accept it.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
400. Well, those are two generous donations.
I
Thank
have
you.
one more donation.
One more. Wow.
Good.
Wonderful.
I don't know.
This is a good meeting.
I know. So this came in the mail. This was a certified letter I received last week. So it's also written in really last minute. This I'll just read. William Corkum, the son of Wanda A. Corkum of Merrimack, New Hampshire, wrote that Wanda, his mother, passed away on October 30th, 2015 at the age of 89. Wanda lived in Merrimack since 1984, where she retired along with my dad, Harvey Corkum. Wanda lived at Country Crossing, Ravencroft, and the last 6 years at Parker Village. Both my mom and dad loved the town of Merrimack and enjoyed their retirement years after raising a family in Stoneham, Mass. for 25 years. I'm the approved administrator executor of Wanda's estate. In accordance with her will, the Merrimack Public Library was named to receive the sum of $1,000. Mom had expressed to me on several occasions that she thought libraries were important to every community, particularly to a community's youth. In accordance with the Ninth Circuit Court Probate Division, I have included a copy of NHJB-2127-P, Notice of Surviving Spouse, Legatees, Heirs at Law, as the Merrimack Library is named as legatee. There is no requirement for any response. The completed form will be filed with the Ninth Circuit Court Probate Division within 90 days. As this process proceeds, I will be in contact with the town of Merrimack to arrange for acceptance and transfer of funds. Please feel free to contact me by phone or email if there are any questions or if you require additional information. Sincerely, William H. Corkum.
He said be in contact with the town.
Yes. So there's we have a couple of donations that go through the town, and I've never actually received one. We have them that exist already. So we just,
It still goes
See how
into
it
the
works.
library bucket. Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but we'll find out. So
Well, that's
I
very
need you to
nice.
vote to accept this as well, and I'll pass it around so you can see it.
It's a motion
vote.
this time.
I move.
You move.
the-
Second?
Okay, Rick seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
400.
Actually, that book that's in the thing with the folders
Yeah.
has a section about how donations can be coming in, if they're given to the town versus given directly to the library versus given to
I
the
remember reading that, yeah.
trust friends.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, that was a nice start to your director's report.
Yeah, It's very nice. I mean, it's sad when someone's mother passes away, and you're like, but how nice to be thought of,
Yeah.
And that would be to the library. I mean, there's no specifics on that at all. It's just
No, not on that one.
No, it mentions.
What we do sometimes when people, you'll remember this, like last month, we
Bob
had
Kelly
a,
monitors.
huh?
Good example.
Right, we had a donation from when Robert Kelly died, when Mr. Kelly died. Then his family had designated. We speak
Right.
to them. We can call him. I can call him and say, thank you so much. And do you know? Do you have any designation? Because
It says especially the youth, so maybe they're leaning towards something for
you might.
children's services.
Sure, but it's always nice to get a little bit of clarification from the donor if you can.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. Okay.
Okay, so the next thing, I still have this on my report just in case you hadn't voted to accept a couple of hirings and promotions.
Okay.
We promoted Susan McGowan as a part-time aide in circulation. I think you did her PAR, but I don't think we voted to actually accept.
It's in our minutes that we
hired her, and then a position opened in circulation. She went for it, and that was
A lateral move.
a really,
Susan
that was a quick.
McGowan was hired as a PT circulation aide.
Okay.
She was hired because she was first hired as
Right.
a page.
And then she moved over.
But I think that happened
And-
before our last meeting.
Right,
Did it not?
yes. So we.
Okay, so
we-
you,
Yeah,
So we
she's in
accepted
there.
her
okay,
as
Yeah.
that's what I need to
the
check.
aide.
Yep.
So let's see if you voted on this. We hired Megan Ham as a part-time page aide in circulation. So she is
I think I
filling
signed the PAR, but we
Susan's,
haven't.
okay, she's filling Susan's position that she opened when she was promoted into the aide position. We hired Megan to be the page aide.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the hiring of Megan Ham.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
400.
Okay. So a couple of other things. So Jennifer Green, who is our Librarian 1 circulation supervisor, had her 6-month evaluation last week. And I am proposing that we promote her to head of circulation and separate her further from adult services. There's been a little bit of confusion about the chain of command. Do the circ staff report to Alex? Do the report to Jen? What if Jen's not here? What if Alex is... I mean, there's been a lot of confusion, and then even just with Jen, a little bit of confusion where should she report to Alex when she feels the question is really something that the director can direct her on. So, in my opinion, I think it's a circulation is a big department that does a lot of stuff, and I think it's a lot easier to just make her the head of circulation and give her a slight increase based on that, and let her still have responsibilities to help assist in the reference department and help cover as needed, covering the desk over in reference, and then I think just in terms of her professional development to help with managing the collection and maintaining the collection, and not just be a manager of circulation staff.
So how is that affecting Alex's position? Because she reported to him.
It
Right.
frees him up a little bit more so that the two departments used to be separate, and then they were combined, and Alex was overseeing both of them, and he's done that for a couple of years, and I think it's a little cleaner to just have them be separate again, and then she can just be a department head. When I'm interacting with Jen and dealing with her, I see her as a department head that's separate from
I
reference.
see your point, because there's that. It almost looked like a demotion for Alex, because now
Right.
some of his responsibilities are being taken away. So, I mean, how does he feel about this, or doesn't he know yet?
Is he still going to be in charge of collection development and?
Oh,
for-
yeah. Oh, no, because
Okay.
he's still adult services. That's
Okay.
really the collection. You know, I think as it was running in a practical sense, you know, having her as circulation supervisor, she was taking on the circulation department with very little assistance from Alex.
Okay.
So they were already operating as two separate departments. You know, I think we need to change her title to make it what she's really doing.
So what is the title again?
Head of circulation.
Head of circulation.
What's her title now?
Circulation supervisor. It's reference librarian 1, circulation supervisor.
So if she is just circulation, if she's head of circulation, if she's a department head, then Alex will be head of
Adult
adult
services,
services,
yeah.
which includes reference.
It's all reference.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the chart.
Yeah, I
So
put it away.
Yeah, so this
That
is
would make a little-
reference,
that
and
would
this
make
is
it
all
cleaner.
circulation.
Well, see,
She's communicated
you've
to me that
already
it's
got her
confusing.
as head of circulation right here.
That's
Yeah,
the
but we have to
proposed.
Because
approve
she
it.
was reporting
Oh,
to
this is
Alex.
proposed
Yeah, we
one.
have to
Oh,
approve
okay,
it.
I see, I'm sorry.
Wasn't she reporting to Alex?
Yeah, you know, and then he'd come to me, but it's almost like a detour in a practical sense. You know, on paper it's one thing, but then in a practical sense,
Right,
it's,
so
you
it
know,
would make more sense than if,
it does.
make it easier to separate it out, that's fine.
And, you know, it's budgeted. The position is budgeted. It doesn't affect any bottom line.
So in essence, he wasn't, since we made this change, when was it, in the fall, he hasn't really been dealing with any of the circulation.
He hasn't had to.
aids and stuff because she's been handling all that. Okay.
The confusing part is her going to Alex or to you and kind of running around in a circle,
Right,
so just.
right.
yeah.
And, you know, it worked for a while because he used to be head of circ. But, you know, if either of them leave and we have new people in both positions, then they have to be independent from each other. You know, it doesn't,
Yeah,
it's not working out in a practical sense, and they were expressing,
so do
That,
we need a motion to change this? Or can't we
Yeah,
just
we
say
have to
no?
approve
Do
it.
we
We
have
have
to,
to.
we need to motion this?
Yeah, right? Yeah,
To me, I don't see why we would have to approve it necessarily.
Well, if she's getting a pay bump.
well, that's the PAR. That's
Oh, okay.
connected, but, you know, I mean, you
There's no
need to.
change, really, we're just changing her title.
But we're also changing her compensation.
I think if you vote on a promotion,
Are you considering this a promotion?
well, because it separates her out of under adult services, and it separates the two departments again.
Yeah, technically, she's moving up
Right.
the food chain.
Okay, from my point of view.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And how does this affect her pay scale then?
She becomes a level 9, which is a department head. She was a level 8 as a reference librarian, supervising staff.
So will she automatically get a raise with this,
Yes,
with this move?
I can pass this
Or do
around
we
and show
need
you.
to approve it?
Let's see the number.
$2 an hour.
I think if you want to talk, I don't know if we have to go into non-public to talk about compensation.
Okay, I don't know. I don't see that
Well,
we
the
really have to
salaries are-
say anything else.
Salaries are public, they're in the
Okay.
budget.
Yeah,
but-
that's,
Okay, we
yeah.
need to go into
Yeah,
that.
we don't
So
have to
do you
get
need
into
a
the
motion?
details.
Yes, so,
It's $1 million. $1 million.
Well, does she become non-exempt then?
As a department head, she would, but I'm the only, so far in our investigation of this, I'm the only staff that has a letter stating that from you. None of the other staff.
Well, that's something they'll have to take to the attorney.
Absolutely. We have rewritten the job description. The last time we had a head of circulation, it was a joint head of circulation, head of teen. That was Alex's former position. So Alex reviewed this, Jen reviewed this. You know, it more clearly states her chain of command, what her duties are, focusing on the circulation department, which is I think there was some confusion in that, because she was in the current position she has, she's reference librarian 1, listed first, circulation supervisor listed second, but is really doing so much work with circulation staff that should be first. It's her primary duty in practical sense. So now it's listed, I have the 2 departments broken out where her primary duty is what she's actually doing as head of circulation, with providing support to the reference department as needed. And Alex had been setting her schedule, and now she'll be able, they'll still probably set the schedule in the same way that they're actually doing it, which is more of a conversation and not dictating this is when you're going to be here, but they still are talking about when does the desk need to be covered,
Okay.
It's just much clearer. It really
That's
is.
Have you rewritten Alex's job description?
No, I'd have to look at that.
Because his will change.
Okay, I can look at that too.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 400.
Okay, I'm still going on my director's report. Okay. I have a resignation.
Oh.
This is why I can't print the director's report, because everything changes. I have a resignation from Natasha.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Yes, I'll just read it to you.
She's been around forever, isn't
15
years.
years. Just
15 years. Please accept this letter as notice of my resignation from my position as library aide. My last day of employment will be January 31st, 2016. I received an offer to work as an evening supervisor at Teddy Library, and after careful consideration, I realized that this opportunity is too exciting for me to decline. It has been my pleasure working at the Merrimack Public Library over the last 15 years. I wish you and the rest of the staff all the best, and I look forward to staying in touch with you. Sincerely, Natasha.
What library was it?
What is
So
that?
she is accepting a part-time evening circulation supervisor position at Teddy Library at NHIA in Manchester.
Oh.
This is part of the GMILCS consortium. It's the New Hampshire Institute of Art, and so it's one of our academic libraries, but as an evening supervisor.
Good for her. Wow, that's good for her. That's sad
she?
news.
I'm gonna miss her, but
Yeah.
good for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great opportunity.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wow.
So I have a PAR
Oh,
as well for her.
okay. Do we have a motion? I'll give a motion to accept with regrets Natasha's resignation. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. 400.
Reluctantly, tempted to say no to that one.
Yeah.
No.
You can't hold back. You can't
Oh,
hold back
she's got to
someone.
stay.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
Okay. Okay, so moving on. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just a tiny bit behind here.
Okay.
It was Jen and then Rick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Rick or was it Laura? I don't know.
No, it's
We've
not.
had a lot of motions.
Yeah, we
So,
have.
but-
Laura did. Yeah.
Laura? Okay.
Okay. This
Wait,
goes
what's
back
that?
to revamps.
Okay. And here's the job description. All right.
Okay. Go ahead, Yvette. You have more?
I do have more. I have more. Okay, so for grants, there's nothing to report this month, but they just announced the New Hampshire Moose Plate grant season is open.
Okay.
I just got an email today, so I'm going to try and look into that.
Okay.
Moving on to building, I told you already that we were clearing the location for the 3D printer, so that was part of it. I got an email yesterday from Scott Livernoy about the slate roof. There was a corner in the slate that had to be repaired, so they came in and made the slate repairs last week.
Oh, okay.
And then we're just going to get an invoice from them. So, but so far everything is watertight. There's no issues with the slate.
So far, no, not that much snow. So.
Well, we'll see, because
Yeah.
it's coming. I don't have any collection changes. We're just working on some weeding of it's a combination of weeding and reclassifying the non-circulating reference that's located in the middle of the floor, and this is part of it is that the way people use our reference collection has changed. There's a lot of reference items that are non-circulating that really don't have to be non-circulating. You don't have to just sit in the library and use them. We've been working through the collection to put them on the shelves so that they can be circulated. And then other things that are out of date or that we've replaced with electronic versions or databases, then obviously those we're letting the print go. But some of the benefit of this is to empty out a bookshelf that's going to go away so that we can change the floor plan, which we're shooting for February for the phase 2 of the main floor move. So that's just in process right now. The next time GMELCS meets, as far as an update, we meet on Thursday. Hillstown is going to be meeting in February. We didn't meet in January. And then Urbans meets on Friday in Concord. The town update, we submitted the annual report, which I think everyone received a copy of that. And then for correspondence, I have a nice comment from our comment page on the website from a resident, a patron who was saying a nice comment about Lee Gilmore in the reference department. So I'll just read that. This is from Mary E. McConnell, and she is a resident, and she has a current card, which are the questions when you fill out our online comment card. Those are the questions you were asked. I want to commend Lee Gilmore for helping me with a service where she really went above and beyond my expectations. Recently, I called the library and asked if a book which had been on reserve for me a few days prior had been returned to the shelves. Lee informed me that it was no longer on the shelf and asked if I wanted to reserve it again. When I replied that I did, she said she would go and get it and take care of it for me. I only expected information, but she did the physical work of actually taking care of the whole process for me. I felt she took more time and effort to take care of my request than I ever expected. I am very grateful that we have Lee on the library staff here in Merrimack.
Very nice. Good job, Lee.
Yes, it's a good job, Lee. So that's all I have for my director's report.
Right. I had the correspondence. We got a thank you card from Peter Juke and one from Sheila Limpman for the staff gifts, holiday gifts. So we'll move on to operating budget.
Okay. Oh, that for the party, is that?
Yes, for their gift cards. So we're just about halfway through the fiscal year, so it looks like a lot of these are kind of at that almost 50% mark. I noted that we're over on postage, which we've budgeted for next year for more for
A little bit
marketing,
more,
so
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the percentage at the end of where we are, you have to really go to looks to see how much was in the line,
Right.
you know.
What was I looking at?
Did you have any question about anything specific? Are you concerned about
let's
anything?
see. Education and training we're over, but we've budgeted for next year to have more in that line too. Oh, I had a question. Maintenance grounds,
Mm-hmm.
we have nothing budgeted, but then it's like 280 added in. Do you know what that is?
I'd have to look at the detail. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can look at the detail. I mean,
That wasn't the bushes that we had cut back, was it?
that was last year.
Yeah, but this is like adding in 280. Because there was 0 and now we have 280 in that
Oh,
line.
yeah, that's the opposite way.
Right.
Hmm.
And you haven't spent any of the capital reserve fund, but you're going to start spending that when you do the electrical and
Yeah, we haven't
everything
had the
for
work.
floors.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had that work done yet. We've just been receiving estimates.
Yes.
So those invoices will start to come.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, moving on to old business. Town charter amendment for Library Board of Trustees alternates. So Yvette and I were at 2 town council meetings last week. Thursday we met on this for the public hearing, and town council moved it forward, which means it goes through like 10 more steps before it gets on the ballot. But they did move it forward as written after we made our edits to it. So I guess it goes through a process. I don't know if it goes back to legal and then it somehow goes through different state agencies or something and then makes its way back to town. So,
And then we'd have to present it at the deliberative session, right?
I don't know.
It goes on the ballot.
I
Well,
think it goes
generally,
on
at the
ballot.
deliberative session, somebody stands up and speaks to each
That's true.
item.
That's a good question. So,
Well, the deliberative session is March 10 at 7.
March 10th.
so we can check back in with Paul. I was assuming he'd keep us kind of updated on
Yeah, I don't know.
where it is in the
Would
process.
the town council present it, or would we, I guess? I would imagine one of us would.
I don't know. Do they just? I thought they just kind of run through
Oh, they run through it.
the different things, but
Yeah.
I don't remember ever seeing somebody stand up from a different.
Well, I think if there are questions, then it's
Then
probably
we
that
can
you need to
answer.
be ready to
Yeah.
go up to the mic and answer them.
Well, I know petitioned ones, the person who petitioned speaks to it.
All right.
And like when the budget goes up, well, now the budget committee doesn't cover the town, but for the school, when the budget committee the chair of the budget committee speaks to the budget article,
Okay.
so
So
they would. Well,
be
that's a
prepared.
question, yeah,
in case the
something
question
we probably
for.
want to be prepared for.
We can ask Paul. I'm sure he would.
The other thing is that we sent it to the town council reading up to 3 alternates, and I think they took that out. And I think the lawyer just made it 3, not up to 3. So we said we don't, when we had our meeting, I got the impression that the one they're sending forward says 3,
Get
just
that.
I
like
don't think so. I think
I
it was
saw-
the other way around. When they sent it to us,
it said 3.
it said 3.
Right.
We made the change to up to,
Right.
and it should be going forward like as that because they didn't make any changes during the meeting.
No, but I think once the town's legal counsel looked at it,
No, they looked at it
Before.
they sent it to
and
us.
he took out the up to so that it would match the RSA.
No, we put the up to in after he looked at it.
Okay,
Pretty sure.
okay.
I can check.
Yeah,
Do you want me to
it's-
check
it's-
with Paul?
When I saw the meeting, because I watched the meeting from
Yeah,
home,
you got the
I got the
impression
impression
they left the up
they
to?
didn't like it, but they left it
Yeah.
Okay,
because there was.
yeah, there was discussion about it, and I
didn't
was
get the impression
confused,
that
yeah.
I didn't think they changed it. I think
No,
they were-
okay, maybe not.
I think they would have
Maybe
had to
I'm
vote
wrong.
to change it.
Yeah, they would have had to vote.
Right.
Okay,
And they just voted to move it forward.
Yeah.
all right,
So I'm pretty sure
okay.
they left it like that. But
Good.
I can check with Paul and ask him to send us the final wording.
All right, I certainly mishear things, so it could very well be, I just thought.
Okay. I can check with them. Okay. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay. Okay. The 2016-17 budget and health insurance. Okay, so last Monday, Eva and I presented our proposed budget. We had concerns about a few things. We did state, or I stated that we're looking to change up the health insurance plan, go to as Paul suggested, go to a deductible plan, SOS plan, and that using that to kind of offset, since the town manager took out the money that we put in for the raises, and using the savings to put towards raises, so we still can put that 2.5% cost of living increase in, and that we came close to that. Apparently, after that, they weren't clear that that's what we were going to be doing. So Paul suggested, correct me if I say it wrong, for us to put something in writing to submit to them before they meet this Thursday, to state that. And they're also going to put Yvette and I back on their agenda for the 25th, just so we can answer their questions, right?
When is it? Is this Thursday, the work session, or is it 25th, the work
Thursday,
session?
Thursday, they're going to be meeting with, I don't know, fire and
It's
police.
the other town
and-
departments, so, on Monday, the 25th, is when they would get their packets with a statement from the trustees about what your intention is about the health insurance and the raises. Plus, we would answer all, and I have some information.
When is their work session, when they actually?
See, that's what, it was confusing, but I'm think it's going to be Monday,
Monday, the 25th.
because it doesn't say work session, but so it says the 21st, which is Thursday. Fire, code enforcement, communications, police detail. Town council to discuss the next steps in the budget process.
Okay.
And then it says January 25th, finalize recommended operating budget and special warrant articles.
That would
And then
take
in
that as-
parentheses, it says if necessary. And then it says snow date. So that's what I was confused about. So right here. But Paul told Yvette he would put us on for the 25th to answer their questions.
Yeah, I would take that as the 25th as a work
It's
session.
their session to make their discussions and everything.
All right.
So they had a question about that. They had a question about the G-Milk's budget. Is there something else we wanted to address on it?
Well, I have more information about, they were, okay. They were asking a lot of questions about the internet line
Oh, yes.
Right.
and streaming video and the Gmail's dues.
They were a little confused because we have two lines for internet, because there's the public internet, and then there's the staff internet, and they're two separate things.
Right.
What was their question about the internet?
Well, it all goes into one big pot, and it's big. And they're just wondering why $41,000.
Oh, that's
That's the
separate.
G-Milk's.
That's the Gmail, that's the
That's
third thing.
the Gmail's question.
Okay, that's the,
So we have right now we have the internet service provider G4, which is going to be changed to First Light.
It's actually First Light. It's not
Files.
G4 anymore.
Oh, okay.
So in, the red is the changes that we're making for 16-17. So in our current year, for 15-16, it says that we were paying our internet provider for the staff side with G4, but then G4 was taken over by First Light. So my bill started to say First Light, even though the budget says it's G4, because it's a year behind. So I made a note about moving to FiOS, and probably discussing it with them made it much more confusing than it needed to be. So I had Alex, write out something so that it's a little clearer, and we can submit all of this stuff to the town council, whatever you think is appropriate, we can submit to them, so they have it in their packets to review from Monday. And then we
What's
can.
their problem? I don't understand what their problem is.
Well, because
It
it
was the
also
cost.
falls under, see, we have Comcast for public internet, and then we have another line for the First Light FiOS, which is also
So
internet.
the issue was having two providers?
I think they were a little confused with that.
Right.
And one is $192, and the other one's $4,680.
I'll just read the statement, which I didn't copy, and I realize it's probably easier if I had copied it. I'm sorry I didn't copy it. But so for Comcast, we have it on the public. It's Comcast Public Network. We are on the $19.99 plan offered to municipalities. That's why it's so cheap. However, the staff side, First Light DSL is what we currently have. We're paying $390 for email, web hosting, and the connection.
For how many users?
Wait. For email, I think we have 17 email addresses. Okay. That doesn't include trustees because you guys are with the town. Okay, with town government.
And I tried explaining to them, too, this is our web hosting. I mean, that's what's
Well,
hosting our
it's-
internet, right? Our,
It's two different
website.
things. It's
Oh,
two different
okay.
things. This is the connection. Is the most important thing is the connection.
Okay.
But it's also the email. Evan
Yep.
is hosting our website, but we haven't disconnected from First Light yet, so we're paying two bills for web hosting because we still need internet for the staff side. We need a connection that it has to be secure, and we also need someone to host our email. Evan does not host email. So we've been researching what is a better email provider and where are we going to get our internet for the staff side so it can be secure. So they have to be separate. We can't have Comcast. Comcast doesn't offer what we need or what Gmilks needs to run it through a certain kind of security and firewalls that I can't explain to you. But Gmilks has certain requirements. Actually, it's all written down. It's very complicated stuff. But Gmilks requires that if you're going to be in the consortium, you have to have a certain setup or it jeopardizes everyone's connection. And that actually, they did recently make a statement in the board maybe 2 months ago, which I can get. Okay, so FiOS is what we could change from DSL. We couldn't change to FiOS, which would be $320 or $500 a month if we speed up to 20 by 20 instead of 5 by 5. So our broadband would increase. We would like it to increase, and that would be an additional cost, but we'd get a FiOS line. It would be a direct line to First Light. It's a faster connection because there are less jumps in between. So currently with DSL, it's jumping down to Boston and then coming up to here. I don't know why, but that's the way it's arranged. If we get the direct FiOS line, it's going to be faster with less interruption because it's a direct line. We don't have an answer yet on email hosting, so that's still up in the air, so we still have to have this bill going to First Light because we need to have internet. We need to have email. You have to be able to reach me. So the consortium has a technical resource consensus policy that's designed to minimize potential exposure of Gmilks to damages from unauthorized use of the network that the library system uses. That's what I was just saying, that it has been written down now. And they're trying to enforce it. This is why we require a staff line for our connection to the Gmilks database and a public network Comcast for our patrons to use.
That's good. That's a good explanation, I think.
And then Alex also wrote a statement about streaming video, since that was something that they asked about. So if you all are wondering also why, we thought that by adding a streaming video service, we were showing that we're willing to try different services that some of our patrons might find relevant in their daily lives. Since streaming video services are popular, Hulu, Netflix, we felt that we could offer a service that could complement what our patrons are already using. Services we were looking at were IndieFlix, Hoopla, and Freegal. They do not have all the options that the big players have, but we do believe that these services do have some value as a service to our patrons. Alex would still like to have it. You were talking about, can we use that line? But it's still something he'd like to try.
Okay.
One of the things he and I talked about, and I don't know if I said this to you, but, he and I talked about was, maybe a better approach if we want to try a service would be to try it out of trustee funds before really committing it to the town budget. That's what we did with the overdrive. There are certain things that are still maintained in the town, in the trustee funds, and, I only added a little bit in the town funds for overdrive just to show that, we have it,
Right.
So that's another option, that might be, it might be more prudent to do it that way instead of just saying, hey, we want to add this service. We don't know what it's going to do, but we want to try it. I mean, the Freegal we put into the town budget,
Right.
So I didn't assume that there would be any resistance to, hey, we want to try something else too. This is modern. This is interesting.
I just worry that you might run the risk of, if we pay for it out of trustee funds, and then the next year we're like, yeah, this works good, we're going to put it in the budget, and then they say, no, we don't want you to have that money in the budget for that.
Sure.
Then do we cut then
Done
we
it.
already have done it, and then do we cut the service, or do we just, and we have to keep paying for it out of trustee funds? Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
I
just worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a service that's going to be reoccurring, I'd rather have it come out of the actual budget, because it's part of the budget at that point.
Right.
I mean, I think
I get your point.
well, a
Yeah.
bigger question is then how do we try new things? New things. We can't try things for free. We can do a little staff trial for free, so we can all look at it for a week, and then we
Right.
discuss it and go, yeah, we like it. Let's add it.
Well, we can always make adjustments later if it doesn't work, but I don't see why it wouldn't be a useful service.
Yeah.
Can't think of a downside.
Well, we change the budget every year. If we put it in the budget, it doesn't work, we take it out of the budget in the future year. Or we change it to some, we still use this line item for something, some other service similar to it. Like, you were talking about possibly changing Freegal to something else, at some point.
Yeah, I mean, with Freegal, it would be nice if Freegal added streaming video to their offerings, but they don't have it yet, because then we
Right.
could just stay with Freegal. But, Hoopla has a variety of things, including music, and so it was like, well, then we would just change altogether.
Replace it. Yeah.
Right. But it's stuff that we're still exploring,
I guess that my inclination is to leave it alone in the budget,
I
right?
would agree.
I mean, I don't know what town council's going to say, but
I'm good with that.
Okay, so are you ready to talk about G-Milk's dues? I know this is looking at formula, and it's late.
formula.
so here's one of the things town council was concerned about. Under computer services, G-Milk's consortium plus CBC plus automation, 41,000, which is a big number, but it
CBC, you
includes.
said?
That's
Yeah.
common borrower card.
Oh,
Okay,
So-
that means our catalog.
But I'm
basically.
sure Yvette has in here, there's a lot that goes into that line. And, it's a big number, but there's a lot that goes into it. Okay.
All right. So I gave you a bunch of different pieces of paper. So what you're looking at, the long legal size papers, you have the G-Milk's budget on the last, I don't know actually what order it's, but we have the G-Milk's budget. So, G-Milk's is a company, and it has personnel expenses and expenses for our hardware, the software. One of the things that Nancy and I talked about was the item under line 5213, which is the server colocation room. So that's where the colocation room is, where our Gmilk servers are at First Light. So,
Say that again? I was looking at this. I
Okay.
didn't get the first part.
so we pay for our internet with First Light, and Gmilk's also pays First Light, but it's separate from our First Light line that we were just looking at.
Sure.
Okay, so the Gmilk servers are in a co-location room at First Light.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this is just basically, this is the budget for Gmilks. And if you were interested in what the costs were that our dues are paying towards, it's this stuff. Okay? Then there's another long legal size paper that is the dues formula, which is what they were asking about, and I wasn't equipped to discuss it. But Nancy is on the formula committee. So she was able to sit down with me and really kind of talk through and come up with a mathematical equation, which they just look at it very differently than I needed it. But then we were able to talk about it and come up with something like an equation. So basically, I've written out in one of these what's going on here. So when you come up with a dues formula, the committee gets together and they look at what the budget is for Gmilks. Okay, and that's based on the sheet I gave you. That's their budget. And this is voted on by the Gmilks board, of which I am a member. All of the directors are voting members of the Gmilks board. So we haven't talked about the budget yet, and we talk about it maybe in March or April. So this is the budget for next year, and it's frankly very hard to plan for a year out. Every library struggles with it in different ways because they're all on either a fiscal year or a calendar year, and everyone is different. So we do the best we can with the information that we have. So when they try to figure out the dues formula, there are 4 pieces of information that go into it. And you see the categories on the long sheet. It's the number of patrons, the number of titles, the number of workstations, and the number of circulating items. Or
What do you consider a workstation?
that is when you sit down at the catalog and you, is it the staff side? I think it's actually the staff side. When I sit down at the catalog and I have a staff side of Polaris, I can search for an item, you can ask me something about your card, and I can make changes on your account.
So it's a computer.
It's getting into the server at Gmilks.
Oh, there's only so many access
So that's the
points?
number of accounts, basically?
It's the number of
Log in.
seats. So there's a seat at the Express Check. There's a seat, probably 3 seats at Cirque. There's one at the Express Check. Upstairs and downstairs each have one. There's one at my desk. You know, the department heads, if it's a reference desk, there's 2. Children's room will have 2. Basically, we have 19 seats altogether. So each library pays for that number of seats that they have, the number of access points they have to the server, to the information, the patron information. We have to pay for it. So every library has a different number. You know, if you look at workstations, that's what that is. You know, so we have 19, but Manchester has 47. They have 47 access points that they have to pay for. You know, somewhere like NHIA, the art school, only has 6 access points. So we're actually, in terms of population, Bedford and Derry, we're right with Bedford and Derry. Kelly, these are the normal libraries in Gmilks that we would always compare to anyway. So we have the same number of seats. So if someone says to me, I wanna add a workstation on this device, we have to pay for it. That's an additional cost. So Anyway, but these are the 4 pieces of information that go into the formula. So each number, the number of patrons, the number of titles we hold, the number of workstations we have, the number of circulations we have, is converted into a percentage. And then all of those percentages are added together and averaged to get another percentage, and then we pay the percentage of the total budget. And what Nancy tells me is they've tried different kinds of formula, weighting each of these 4 items differently, but this one is the most stable. The things on the last page is, and I've checked all this math and it works out to what it is. So they get, if you look at our line on the dues formula page, you come up with a dollar amount. For us, it's $31,743. And then they add the van, which is $2,600 for us, and then we get what we put in the budget for the town.
That's not over here.
It's on this page. Mine's highlighted in it,
Sorry.
right? Oh, it's the dues
Because
formula
I'm missing
page.
the last 2 columns.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
it
missing
cut
the
it
It
last
ends
2
at
columns.
circulation.
Yes, it ends at circulation.
You know, okay, I can pass this around so you can look at it. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. Okay, so I talked to Nancy about how do you estimate what the cost is going to be for that budget line. And she and I had sat down with the other department heads in the fall, in October and November, to put together the budget line of why does it say $41,000? You know, why did we jump from 37 to 41? So, you know, some of the things that are variables that we are trying to plan for that we don't know when are going to happen are if we add titles or delete titles, our percentage will go up or down. If we add workstations or delete workstations, our percentage will go up and down, and that will impact our end percentage. If our circulation increases or decreases, that will affect it. If we add patrons or delete patrons, obviously that's going to, you know, anytime we are using the service of the catalog and that database, we have to pay for our usage. And if it goes up or down, we have to pay for it. So, you know, if we go out and do a big library card sign up and we want to get more patrons, we have to pay for more patrons. If we want to have our circulation go up, which we do, we have to pay for the increase in circulation. You know, if we add a bunch of titles, we have to pay for that. One of the things that is happening now, you know, there's something that's going on at Bedford. Bedford is doing a trial called auto renewal. So there's a feature in Polaris where, and I've gotten emails, you might have gotten emails for this. I have a Bedford item and I've checked it out, and when it's due, I get an email that says your item has been automatically renewed. So that actually increases Bedford's circulation automatically. Instead of me being overdue and having to pay a late fee to Bedford, the late fee goes away, but the cost for them in the formula goes up because their circulation increases automatically. What Nancy said was Bedford could look at an increase of $10,000 in their budget for their dues because they've turned on an auto renew feature.
And then they're not getting fines.
And they're
paid
not
to them
getting
either.
fines either.
So what's the
Yeah.
advantage of doing
The advantage is to the patron.
Yeah.
It's a
Like, that would be great for me.
convenience. It's a convenience for the patron, but then
it's
the
a huge
library
hit.
has to pay the
Oh,
cost.
it is.
Yeah.
It's a double hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we turn on auto renew, I don't know what that cost is going to be for us. So
I
I,
don't think we should turn on
Based on what you should-
It
Well,
would save me
it's-
money, but
exactly. I mean, that's what you have to consider. It's
It saves you money in fines, but it's
Yeah.
going to cost you more money in taxes.
right,
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
So
right.
there you go. You're right. It will. So how do
Which
you
bucket you take
plan
the
for
money out
this? You know, and you know, quite honestly, I never looked at the Gmail dues closely before, and it's been really
Well, you had said it
very
went from-
positive for me to be able to look at this and dig into it. You know, I mean, I think as a director, I'm focusing on personnel and other things, and now it's like, oh, now it's time to learn more.
Why
about
do
it.
they,
You said it went from 37 to 41. This shows the total 28, and then total with van 34.
Right. So for last year's budget, when we put this current year's, when we put 15, 16 together, we estimated an increase and made it 37.
Oh,
Because what happened, and I didn't bring that piece of paper, but I had written to you, Jen.
Yeah.
When we changed the van a couple of years ago, and it was probably it was probably 2005. We were using one van, one courier service, just within G-Milks. And then they changed vendors in the fall. So we were already in our fiscal year. And we were in a deficit of $2,000 and change because we hadn't planned for a new van. But they changed companies and the van increased. I mean, there was a different cost, a different company increased the amount of deliveries and had a more efficient way of running. And so we had to find the money from somewhere and didn't see that cost coming. So I think now trying to estimate more for some of these changes, I think there's an art to it, and I don't have the art yet. And it's, what she told me for some of the variables, if we add a title to our catalog, anything that we can assign a bibliographic record to, a number to, so it shows in the catalog. And this is not the Dewey number. Each item has a bib record. And I don't know, it doesn't show on the patron side, but it shows on the staff side, and maybe it's a 7-digit number or something. If we add a record to our catalog so that you can see it when you're searching, that's going to add increased titles. So if we have this database called Safari, and it's all of the computer manuals, but it doesn't appear in the catalog. If we decided to turn on a feature where we assign every single title in Safari database to our catalog so that you could see our print copy, which we don't have anymore, and you can see the electronic copy, which we do have because it's in the database, that's going to bump our title percentage number up, and we're going to have an increased cost there.
Why? I don't understand. Why do they charge for the titles that you have?
Because we're using the service. We're using the catalog. It's holding,
okay.
It's taking up more space on the server. We're using it more. If we have more patrons, we're using it more because we have more patron records. Same as if we, and you always do a purge at the end. If people don't use their library card after 3 years, you get purged, from the system. You're doing a regular purge. We're doing a regular maintenance of the collection, so titles come in and out, and that's usually pretty flat when things come in and out. But if we do a really
after a year.
We can't. I don't think we can afford to add some of these database titles into the system. I would have to rethink.
Make it easier for patrons if they're looking for it to know
it's
that
the same
it's
as auto
available.
renewal, but it's the same as auto renewal. It's like
Taxes.
right,
Out of pocket.
right. So it's.
But that might increase usage of that database.
Sure. And it justifies the cost for a database because databases are expensive. But we have to pay for the service because we're using the catalog. If we change this, if the state van changes its system and we have to increase the van for G-Milks, for the courier, so we can get our business done, then that is another increase. I had asked, and I probably didn't bring this, I asked Lee to tell me, because Lee does the interlibrary loans, I asked her to tell me, how many bags do we send out? How many bags do we receive? And she said it's pretty even. So we're both lending and borrowing items. So, there was one thing that Paul and I had talked about on the phone is, are we paying for books to go over there? And it's like, no, it's pretty even for us. So the courier, was working for us. But we have items that are going out on the state van. We have items that are going out on the courier. The state van is paid for out of the state budget, however the state budget works. So we want to get our money's worth out of that, even though it doesn't appear as a separate line. But we still want them to move certain items. Even within G-Milks libraries, we still do G-Milks that way. But if the state van changes and we still want to maintain the level of service we have in terms of moving our items around, then there would be a cost there, which a couple of years ago we didn't know was coming, and we were $2,000.
Are you talking about the state van or the other van now?
I'm talking about if the state van changes. If the state budget in the library, the library's budget, the state library's budget, if the state library gets a cut and they decide to again cut their van service,
oh, okay, the state.
we either don't do that service anymore or we have to find alternate ways to get our materials around, and that means we have another courier. And you never, how do you plan for the state cutting again?
When you don't, there's so many variables.
There's too many variables. One thing Nancy pointed out to me, our portion of cost for a new co-location room.
A new what?
Co-location room, where the servers are stored at First Light. I don't know what the reasons are for why someone would want to move the servers. I've never been to the co-location room. But if there's a change, then it's like we're paying rent to that, and we would pay a portion of that as part of our dues. The next platform that's coming for Polaris is something called LEAP. We've been training the staff on LEAP, but Merrimack hasn't unveiled it. Other GMILCS libraries have decided to just go with LEAP. We've been doing that a little more gradually with our staff, but there's a different cost for LEAP with using LEAP. If, that's a new platform, and as it develops and gets more features, the cost for the additional features, like any other computer thing, is going to increase. There's some neat features that we want, but we'd have to pay for them. There's an app that's in development now with LEAP. Nancy and Marilyn, who's the GMILCS librarian, they were just at ALA in Boston, and they were talking to the vendor for Polaris and talking about the developments for a LEAP app. Polaris was bought out. There was a corporate takeover. And I'd have to go through my emails to see when it was. It might have been last year, this like April, because it was April Fool's Day, and we got this email saying Polaris has been taken over by III, and nobody knew what was going to happen because nobody saw this coming. And it was April Fool's Day, and I don't know if it was 2000. It was probably 2005, because it was like, was this for real? Because why would you send this email out on April Fool's? Don't you know this is April Fool's Day? So everyone was freaking out, but. So there was a corporate takeover, and the III is another library catalog company, and they took over Polaris, which is a smaller company, and then they're deciding which platforms that Polaris already had in existence, which ones do they want to develop. The Polaris is an inexpensive platform, and we kind of still have a gentleman's agreement with the new corporate head. So nobody knows what's going to happen to that, and that could be a very sudden increase in cost whenever that company decides to implement things or to cut Polaris and force everyone to go to some other thing that I don't know what it is. That's the variables that when Nancy and I talk about, or when we talk with the other department heads about how do we estimate for this line, that's some of the things that makes it go to 41%, $41,000. One of the things she said, we talked about, would you be comfortable if we changed the line and backed out a little bit and went back to this current year's line, which is $37,000. And that was okay. After she and I had this conversation, we were kind of digging around about this. She said we should expect for a 3 to 5% increase because of some of the development that's going on. Which doesn't include the van. So, because of the III increases on the vendor side.
Okay.
So we should at least plan for the 3 to 5 increase, which would be, if it's 5%, it's $14.37. But right now we're actually paying $34,343. We've got it budgeted at $37, so it will still give us a little bit of room if we stay at $37.
Okay.
If I were doing it over, I might even just go to 38, but I don't know if that's, I think the challenge is to, try and really watch our GMILCS line and be aware that, we get a lot of stuff, everything that's in this budget for GMILCS, this is everything we're getting. If we wanted to pull out of the consortium and go out on our own and get our own catalog system, we would be paying more than $41,000. We would need a staff person to manage the whole thing plus the system. So the staff person, so we are getting a great deal here, but we need to really, I think what we need to do is kind of figure out what kind of services do we want to add and prepare for those kind of costs, like doing an auto renewal or like adding titles from the databases. But those are things we can kind of control and watch and maybe monitor, but any changes that comes from the vendor because they decide to, I don't know how to plan for that. We can't plan for that. The same with the state van. There's no way you can foresee the state library budget getting cut and where the state librarian wants to make the cut, and if he's going to do it out of a van, the perception might be, well, that consortium down there in southern New Hampshire, they already have a van. Let's cut service to southern New Hampshire. Let's cut service to the GMILKS consortium. Then I go to a board meeting and I find this out, and it's like, okay, now I need another $2,600. I don't know how much I need. It's very hard to estimate, but
Well, if we say 38, that's still, what, $3,000 less than what is in there now, right?
Yeah, when I was on the phone with Paul, I said we can probably do 37. So I think, and one of the things I said to Nancy is, when I go, our budget is already, in motion here for Merrimack. When I go to a board meeting in March or April, whenever they schedule the budget discussion, maybe I have to vote no.
Why do they do it at that time if these are all libraries that are on
honestly, I don't know why that's the year. I mean, GMLX is on a calendar year, but I'm sure it was decided a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just makes it difficult for everybody to have to guess.
Everyone's on a different. I mean, I think Goffstown is on a calendar year. I mean, some people. You just kind of do your best, but for us, we're planning like a year ahead.
Yeah.
It's hard, but I can see why we would have put in something like 41. Because all of these other things are happening in other libraries, and when are we going to turn auto renewal on?
Yeah.
I don't know now.
Already decided not to.
I know. I don't know. It sounds like such a cool idea,
But when you pay twice.
Yeah.
When you pay twice.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we have to really choose carefully. We'd have to really choose carefully, and I don't know. I want the app. I like the idea of the app, but no one. It's not done yet. They don't have anything yet.
Increase how many times things can
So
be renewed.
it's almost 9:30.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to let you know this is the information I came up with. This is the kind of stuff that I would share on the 25th. To kind of answer their questions that they had. It's probably too much information. What I said to you is probably way too much.
So do we have an action item from this, I guess, is the question then.
Yeah. Can we wrap it up?
I don't think we have to I don't think we have to
Health
vote
in-
anything.
The health
I mean,
insurance is. Did you talk about? Did you vote on what you want to do with the health insurance? 'Cause
Right.
That's
Okay.
more
So
important.
I spoke to everybody individually before we did the presentation. I guess what we need to do is, even though we haven't, I don't know that we need to vote on it, but maybe more not set in stone, but more state clearly. Here's our intention: is we intend to change up the plan. We intend to take that savings and use it for the 2.5%
Yes.
cost of living
Yes.
adjustment.
Yes.
So I think it's fair for us to put that in.
Mhm.
We can't say we voted on a plan because we haven't yet. We don't, we haven't
Don't have
set
anything in
that
stone
yet.
yet.
We don't have anything in stone yet.
Well, you're going to have to vote on what Paul was saying to me is you're going to have to vote on a plan. You have to give the staff like 30 or 60 days. I wrote
Right.
this to you in an email, so I don't have the numbers. But you have to notify the staff so that they can change the plan. There's an open
I thought
Open
that was
enrollment
July
enrollment.
1st.
period.
Um,
That's when it goes into effect.
That's what I meant.
That-
But you have to notify people,
By May, beginning of May.
right, right.
And I thought we were going to vote by April on that? If we need to do it
Well,
sooner, I think we can, because I think we're ready
yeah.
to go.
We could do it, I guess, at any time. We just don't know what the final cost is because we have the guaranteed maximum. I'm trying to find my sheet with all the comparisons on it. Okay, so this that I sent you that has all the calculations. So after looking at what she gave us for the guaranteed, I keep saying guaranteed, but for the maximum rate is, no, it is guaranteed, right? Guaranteed maximum rate. For what the plan that we budgeted for was actually higher than what we budgeted because we budgeted based on a estimate,
Based on what?
an estimate of how much it would go up. Where's the line? Health insurance right now budgeted 134 $640. What it would cost for this, if we kept that same plan, didn't change anything, at the maximum rate that she gave us would be $155, $964.96. So that's a big difference. So the way it ended up, we would be over by like $6,000 or something in our budget.
I thought, I'm confused, I guess I'd have to look at it again. I thought the plan we had talked about and based everything on was a deductible plan.
Right, I'm just saying, if we weren't even talking about going to a deductible plan, and it came in at the maximum rate, our budget wouldn't cover that.
The old plan, yeah, okay.
So it's almost like we have to do something. We can't leave it as is because we would be over.
Yeah.
But I felt like everybody was saying, yes, we're fine with it. It seems like a fair plan. It's, it's a change, but it's a fair plan. It's going in the direction that I think the town wants us to go in. So, where's the number? So we were looking at what we were calling option C, SOS plan, sticking with the current pharmacy plan, for a total of $120,625.56. And this is if we pay 100% of the premium. So that's taking the burden of the 10% off of the employees in order to get as close as we can to a balance. So that 10% that they're no longer having to pay is kind of offsetting their extra costs that they may incur. And obviously that's going to be different from person to person based on how much they have to go to the doctor, how many prescriptions they use and such.
Now, have you discussed these intentions with the full-timers that are affected by this yet? Or?
Well, we called a meeting with Debbie, and, some of the staff showed up, but otherwise I haven't had another meeting.
Okay. So what's the overall feel from the staff, I guess? Are they okay with this, or are they upset?
Joanne was there, Nancy was there.
Are we going to have torches and pitchforks come to our meeting? Or?
I mean, they know we're looking at it because they got notice that we were meeting with her.
Everyone
They
who
didn't have
has health
much
insurance
feedback
was
about it.
notified to come, try and make the meeting. And if you didn't make the meeting, come see me after. And I didn't have anyone come to me after.
Okay.
So.
And the people that were there didn't seem to have much comment about it, because we did ask them.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's as close of kind of a wash that we can do by taking away that. So
Right.
it really just depends on how much they use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we gain by doing that $14,000, 14 cents. $14,000, $14.44. So that leaves us short about $2,000 roughly. So we will need to try to figure that out. That's if it comes in at the maximum. So we could say, yes, that's the plan we want to go with, and
So we're
I guess
voting
we
on
wait
that
and
tonight
see
then?
if everybody's
Yeah, 'cause
comfortable with
we
voting on that.
discussed these plans in
We're all
pretty good
agreed with
detail,
it.
so I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with it at
Okay.
this point.
And then, I don't know if we, if we say to town council, we'll take that, we'll go down to 137. I mean, no, 137. We'll go down to 37,000 on the G-Milks. Then that
Or
gives
did
us
you say, you said
$4,000.
38?
No, she said 37.
I did. I think in an ideal world, I might go to 38, but I think what I said to Paul was 37. And then after the conversation with Nancy, I felt a little more comfortable.
Well,
at
then let's
38,
say
but
38. If
I wouldn't want to go back on that, what I said to
7.5?
Paul.
Meet halfway.
No, I think we keep, for the GMOX line, we keep it flat, we go back to 37.
Okay.
And then we see what happens with all of this kind of new information about how for me to understand
All right.
how the dues formula goes ahead and what we might want to add or not add in terms of services.
Right.
Because now I know what it's going to affect because now I understand the formula.
Mm-hmm.
So, we still have, in terms of that $34,000 that is our actual bill, there's still room in case there's a career change or in case, there's
Still
room.
a little bit of space.
So we can, if we go up by 5% because III is going to increase something that equals, the 5% increase in their services, then we still have, that's under $2,000 we'll still have, because it's 26, we're 26 over what we're actually paying. So we still have a little bit of room.
So that's just my concern is $2,000, this doesn't cover $2,000 of that.
Do you want to, should we figure out that $2,000, and do we want to vote on this by a particular time? Do we want to have this health insurance question answered voted on by a particular time?
I think we're ready to do it tonight.
I'd like
right?
to vote on it now
You
and
do.
say,
You don't want
yes,
to
that's,
resolve the $2,000
but I'm just
issue.
concerned about, we just don't know. We don't know, are we going to, when that, what is it, April, when
Yeah, we
we
can't
find out
wait
that
till
number?
April, so we may as well
Um,
just do it now, if everybody's,
But is it predicated upon this $2,000 discrepancy or not? If it is, maybe we should wait.
No, I mean,
That's the
we've got to do
raise.
something.
Yeah,
That's
'cause
for the
you're-
raise.
Well, there are
yeah,
two
but-
things going
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
One is Paul would like to give something in writing to the town council by the 25th, or
Okay.
by the 21st, so he can get it to them in their packets
Okay.
for their meeting on the 25th, when
Okay.
we're going to answer some questions from them.
Right.
That's one piece.
Mhm.
The raise is a whole separate piece,
Right.
which is there's two unknowns, one with the health insurance, gross maximum
Right.
rate, but your intentions are to change it, so I think you should vote on the change.
Okay. So
I think
let's,
you can do
let's
that
get that
confidently,
out of the
and
way.
then-
really have to.
Yeah.
We have to either way, but,
Yes.
Okay.
so let's vote on that, and then let's talk about that.
So we're making the motion to go with option C of the four that we discussed.
Correct. The SOS plan, sticking with the current pharmacy plan.
And I will make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, that's 400.
We have
Okay.
that.
So the cost of living increase. I just don't know where they're going to stand with, we say we'll drop the 41 down to 37. Are they going to take all that money back and then we don't have any money to
I don't
do
know.
this? Or do we just worry about that when we get the numbers in and then we see, are there other areas we're willing to take away from?
Well, I thought it was pretty much a settled deal once we resolved the health insurance issue.
But we're short $2,000.
But we're short $2,000.
If
Because
it's
the
the
rate,
maximum
yeah. If it's
that
the
they can
max,
charge.
yeah. Because we'd save 14,000 and change, and the raise is 16,000 and change.
Well, what Paul and I were talking about was if we, for the G-Milks line, if we agree to put back $4,000 or $5,000 from that line, but ask for two back, he had a way of kind of condensing those, what I see as two actions, he had a way of condensing it into one of, we're giving you back $2,000 because we want to keep two for the staff raises. And I said, yeah, I guess so, but I would see it as two separate
How
things.
do
And
we
I think
say that?
it would be presented as two separate things, is
Right.
that, okay, we're willing to do this, but the intention is still that because we've changed health insurance, our intention is still that if there's any money left, we'd like to give these folks a raise to offset the cost of the health insurance and to do a cost
Right.
of living for everyone else. So I think when you put that in writing, you can put that in writing in, it's a couple of different points.
what we could do is vote on our intention to use any savings from changing our health insurance towards a cost of living raise for the library staff.
Okay.
Yes.
And we just won't specifically say a number.
because you don't have it. You don't
Right.
know.
Well,
Because
Exactly.
right now,
At
we
least they know
the
want to do
intention.
the town manager and the council are really only voting on the bottom line of the budget anyway, so as
Correct.
long as the
That's
bottom
true.
line isn't changing
That's
from where it is now, after the town manager, adjusted, we're still supporting the same bottom line.
Or will it change because we're going to say, we'll drop that down to
I don't know.
37,000?
I don't know what they do after that. I
Right.
don't know.
I think we can have the vote if it's worded, or have a vote about the savings in our budget that, towards health insurance, to to remove the 10% contribution that staff paid towards their health insurance costs, and to use any other savings from changing our the health insurance towards a cost of living increase.
Okay,
That's our
We could do that.
I think that's good. Is that your motion?
I don't know.
Do we have to vote on that, I suppose?
Okay.
Just to make
Well,
it
at this
official,
point, we're not
I don't
changing the,
think
we made the motion, approved
Yeah,
going with the other option.
Maybe it would be good to make a motion just so we have it on the record.
So what do we,
Intends to use,
say one more time what we're actually doing here?
well, now I'm actually writing it down because I
Okay.
was blathering before. The Library Board of Trustees intends to use savings from the new insurance, or the SOS, new health insurance agreed upon. And it tends to use savings from the new health insurance to give library staff a cost of living raise. Something about also, this raise will also be covered by removing the 10% staff contribution towards,
well, that doesn't cover the raise.
well, it helps cover it. It makes the health
It
insurance
offsets the
It
cost a
it
little bit,
offsets the
but you're still
cost,
$2,000
but-
short, you said.
Right.
So you still need to-
$2,000 short, yes.
You still need to, in your statement, you still need to say, even with these changes in health insurance, we're still a little short and would like to ask for.
When we talk, yeah.
Yeah,
we put something in writing,
but that
you're-
wouldn't be part of the,
I'm just not,
motion.
I don't know if we need a motion. I mean, that's our
Do we-
intention, but do
Because
we
we're
need a
not
motion?
changing anything, the
not
budget
changing.
is
Right.
still
no,
there.
okay,
Right.
okay, so, I mean,
Because
We need to
we
make it
approved
part
the
of
budget.
record. That was
well,
the only,
Yeah.
we don't need a motion,
Yeah.
but to make it
Which
part
can
of
be
the
in the
record.
minutes.
We
It
approved
can
the
be-
budget with the raises in it and with the
Right,
full cost of the
Right.
insurance in
well,
it
it's in the
already.
minutes.
which was our intention
Yeah,
anyways.
so at this
Maybe
point,
that's adequate.
when we get the number back, the bottom line is, I guess, what we have to make the motion on, where the bottom line actually applies.
Right.
Yeah, well, I have it in there now, it'll be in the
Okay,
minutes.
yeah, put it in the minutes.
Yeah,
I think
it'll be in the
that's
minutes.
enough. And it's just how we
Yeah,
word it in
Yeah.
writing to the town
Okay.
council. Is everybody okay with me working with Yvette to just put together that document to the
Yes.
town council and just kind of
yeah.
succinctly, I don't know, bullet points or something
Yeah.
for that? Okay, all right.
Horse has been beaten. That horse has been beaten.
To a pulp.
Okay, all right. Let's see.
Doo-doo in the ground now.
Okay. It's getting late, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, other business, I had a note. I wanted to note that filing for candidates for town offices February 24th to March 4th. Do you have the intention, am I
intend
putting you
to
on
run-
the?
Yeah, I intend to run for one more seat, one more term.
Okay,
For library?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah.
Oh, you're
Okay.
up this year?
Yeah, I'm up
So-
this
Are we
year.
supposed to win?
March
One
4th.
more term. This is my first term, so I'm gonna run one more time.
So,
It's 3 years though, right?
Yeah, it's 3
Yeah,
years.
3 years.
yeah,
So it's when, February?
February
Fourth.
24th.
Oh, 24th.
24th to March 4th. So Rick C. is the only one up for election, and he's going to run for re-election. Yay.
This is our second year.
Second year.
This is your second
Yeah,
year,
you
yeah.
guys are up next year.
Next year.
2 of 3.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about our February meeting. So I looked, it could be the week, we could push it back 1 week to Tuesday, the 23rd, and I don't see anything with budget that, yeah, I don't see anything in here that would,
I'm open for another night too, you know. Good.
Well, the 23rd is Tuesday. That's fine with, any day that following week
okay.
is fine with me. I
You
just,
away the whole week?
the week before, yes, I'm away the whole week.
So what day, the 24th,
So, 23rd,
23rd?
Is
right?
it-
That's the 23rd?
It's
Yeah, Tuesday,
Tuesday.
the 23rd.
I'm good with that.
Okay, and I'll let Janet know. Yvette, does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay. And Karen, can you
I'll arrange it with
contact
them.
Town Hall?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to remember to tell Janet. Okay. I think that's all. Anybody else have other business? No.
That's school vacation week.
Yes.
Yes, it is,
Yeah, it is.
actually. It is.
What?
School vacation week is February 23rd.
Does that change anything?
Not for me.
As of right now, I didn't win the lottery, so we're not going anywhere. Yeah, I'll check with Janet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be the only thing. So let's say, unless you,
Tentatively,
yeah,
the
tentatively,
23rd.
I'll send you a confirmation after I
Okay.
check with her.
Okay.
Okay, calendar, we just went over that, so tentatively the 23rd, back here at Town Hall, and we'll find out
Yeah.
if we have a room.
When's the Friends meeting? January 20th?
25th, yeah.
I have friends on the 25th at 7 o'clock in the Lowell Room. Development Fund I had incorrect. It is this Thursday, the 21st at 5 o'clock. Director's Office.
They
Or lower.
changed the date. You probably on your calendar it was.
No, it was originally like the
The
12th or
25th is also
something, and
the
then,
town council
yeah,
work
I put the
session,
wrong
too.
date down instead of the 21st, the
So that's
25th.
gonna be a busy night, the 25th, because you got the Friends, you got the Development Fund on the 25th.
And
and
the-
No,
that,
that's
it's,
21.
that's,
The
I put the
21st.
wrong date, yeah,
What
it's
is
the
that date?
21st, yeah.
21st.
Yep. And we will be at, Yvette and I will go to the town council meeting on the 25th.
Okay. and I'll
Right.
be
And
in
the
with the
ribbon
Friends.
cutting.
You can talk to the
is
friends
on-
about the.
We'll be in with the Friends,
survey.
yeah. Yes.
Ribbon
Email
cutting
me and
is
remind me,
is
please.
the 30th.
How about that? But yeah. Well, you said you'll send me a copy of the, well, I've got the copy of the thing, never
I'll
mind.
send you the email I sent to Claire so you know what I told
Perfect.
them.
Yes, that's what you said you were gonna send me, correct.
Okay, midwinter book sale is January 30th, Saturday, January 30th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that day at noon is our ribbon cutting for the 3D printer. Sunday, the 31st, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then we're again hosting a Friends of the Library pre-sale for members on the 29th at 5:15 p.m.
Mhm.
Is there an end time?
It goes 5:15 to 6:30.
To 6:30.
So if I've heard from Laura already, but if anyone else wants to look at your calendars and just tell me when you want to show up.
I can
Okay.
I'll be there
And-
Friday, that Friday.
Okay, and look at your calendars for any other
I'm keeping my
volunteer
weekend
times.
free.
You don't
So I'll be
need,
there.
need anybody during the day on Friday, just at the book sale,
Just in
right?
case there's anything still set up,
Friday is set up. So if you want to
Oh, to
set
sell.
up
I was
the
gonna come and help set
books.
up.
yeah, during the day.
Okay. So let Yvette know what times you can volunteer. Comments from press, public, and board members? Anyone?
No comment.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion we adjourn.
I motion
Laura's
we
always
adjourn, eh?
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Right.
400. It is 9:48.
Something.
48.
Good heavens.
But we got a lot done.
Yeah.
I'm cold and tired.
It's a little chilly in here.
My phone's dying.
Yeah, I can,
Please pass those
I can
down.
work evening and Saturday and Sunday, whatever you need, so.
Okay.